Chapter 74. Cass was an experienced crusader. When he heard Han Dong's exclamation, the opening of the wooden door could no longer be reversed. Cass immediately closed his eyes. He only felt a gust of cold wind brush past his body. He immediately made use of the advantage of his crusader's physique, retreating and kicking the door. Boom! The door to the study closed once again. Cass closed his eyes in time and did not see anything. What happened? Did something pass by outside the door just now? Kirst quickly replied, "A spirit. It's the same as the description on the bounty poster. The woman hidden under the white cloth has branch-like tentacles growing from her body." Spirit. What happened? What happened to the study? When Cass turned to look at his teammates, he realized that the dilapidated study had been restored. It had returned to the appearance of a study in a luxurious mansion. Could it be that night will restore this mansion? Or moonlight can reveal its original appearance? Just as his teammates were astonished and considering how to deal with the spirit outside the door, Han Dong had already picked up a special diary on the table and started reading it seriously. It recorded the secrets of the Baker family. Han Dong skipped over the trivial matters and started reading the important content. The diary was written by Baker Marcellus. The content was as follows: 17th of March. I heard from old Henry that there was a batch of new goods of good quality in the Commoner district. Just nice. I'm already sick of the slaves at home. It's time to change my tastes. But I have to personally go to the Commoner district, a filthy and stinky place, which makes me a little uncomfortable. I hope old Henry didn't lie to me. The process of purchasing slaves, about 800 words, there wasn't a single slave that caught my eye. Old Henry's channel is obviously not working. There's no need for me to continue contacting him in the future. But there was an item on display at the end of the auction that interested me. It was a book with special magical powers. It was said that a fearless commoner picked it up from an abandoned sewer system. That commoner sold the book to the auction at a normal price and died at home on the same day. The starting bid for this book was as high as 300 copper coins. I believe in my own judgment. This is the only way for me to walk on the path of a knight again. Even if it means using my family's funds, I have to buy it. If I can learn the special magic recorded in this book, I can go to the library again and continue my path as a knight. I asked the housekeeper to send the money over and bought the book. Then, I immediately rushed home. He had used a fake identity to participate in the auction in the Commoner district, so no one should know. March 18th. Unbelievable. The content of this book is far beyond my imagination. With my wisdom as a novice knight, I can only understand the first chapter at most. But this is enough. As long as I can execute the first chapter perfectly, I will obtain an endless amount of magic power. When I return to the library department, those teachers who expelled me will definitely regret their foolish actions back then. The human sacrifice had to be prepared slowly, and there was only one chance. I must first conduct a small simulation experiment at home. If it succeeds, then I will carry out my great plan in detail. Wasn't this old woman in the house a living sacrifice? I wanted to kill her for a long time. This family was built because of me, the great trainee knight. She and her old father only gave me a little starting capital. After being expelled from the academy, she looked at me every day as if she was looking at a piece of trash. I can't wait to kill this old woman. March 19th. It's a bit late to write, but I have to record the interesting things that happened today. It's really interesting. The experiment was a success, and I obtained power. Moreover, I even used the arcane spells I learned in the Knight Academy and combined them with the content of the first chapter of the book to create a contaminant. A contaminant that is completely harmless to me. That's right, I'm very talented. I can perfectly execute the magic recorded in the book. After I drained this old woman's life force, I turned her into a contaminant through a magic array. You could try the content described in the latter part of the first chapter. Try to stuff something in her body and turn this old woman into a powerful contaminant. She can guard the mansion and stop and kill anyone who breaks into my house and tries to interfere with the sacrificial ceremony. If all of this can really succeed, I might become a king. March 20th. Today was also a very interesting day. I stuffed the whole family into this old woman's body and turned her into a very powerful pet. Although I feel sorry for my young son, there's nothing I can do about it. What surprised me the most was that the refining site was in the back garden. When I activated the evil magic array, I didn't expect that the 100-year-old sycamore tree would also be fused into it. It's really incredible. This magic book has the power to control all life. The plan will start tomorrow. I'll use this opportunity to lure the security officers to my door. With my current strength, it's easy for me to control these guys who live off women. Let's create a murder plan. The diary stopped there. The contents of the book had clearly described everything that had happened to the Baker family. The mastermind was the head of the family, Baker Marcellus. As for the ghost floating in the mansion, it was a contaminant created by his wife, his whole family, and a sycamore tree. However, this wasn't what Han Dong cared about the most. It was the book that the head of the family spent a lot of money to buy. The magic book that was auctioned off in the civilian district was picked up by a commoner in an abandoned sewer pipe. The truth isn't that simple. There's a big problem with this book. The National Royal Knight Academy's test might have some problems, but it's fair enough to treat the students. As long as the students meet the school's requirements, they can definitely study and grow normally in the various departments. Baker Marcellus, who was expelled, had his talent and strength denied, but he could obtain such great power through a book. This means that it's not that he has talent. It's that this magic book deliberately gave him great evil power. It deliberately used this head of the Baker family to contaminate the interior of the holy city. If we find the book, we might be able to lure out the guy behind it. Friend Andwa, did you find anything? Cass's question interrupted Han Dong's thoughts. Yes, I already know the secret of the Baker family, but we have to deal with the contaminant wandering outside the door first. According to the description in the book, the main body of the ghost fused with the Baker family and a 100-year-old sycamore tree in the backyard. The refining method involves the eyes, which Senior Coastland has already seen. During the battle, we have to be careful of eye contact. Cass was surprised. In just 3 minutes, Andwa, you finished reading the entire diary? You even wrote down the key points? Han Dong explained. Omitting the unimportant information, there's not much useful information. Efficiency and methods are important when reading books. Captain Cass, you come up with a battle plan. Okay. Cass nodded and deliberately threw Han Dong a meaningful look. Chapter 75. The study was located on the second floor of Baker's house. As they were not sure if there were still ghosts lingering outside the door, Coastland sought a hole on the floor of the study for a single person to pass through. Han Dong and Coastland continued to form a team and went down through the hole. The lower end corresponded to the storeroom on the first floor. Captain Cass and Fea were in a team. Fea provided all kinds of holy light blessings, allowing Cass's pollution resistance value to reach the maximum state. At the same time, Cass could also apply the buff Crusader's strength to himself. While strengthening various physical attributes, it could also increase willpower and greatly reduce the effects of pollution on the brain. The first step of the plan was that Cass was prepared to face the ghosts lingering in the mansion head-on. In the time that Cass bought, all the team members spread out and surrounded the ghosts from different angles, trying to kill them as quickly as possible. Although everyone's weapons had been blessed by Celeste with King's blessings and had holy light attributes. But to truly fight against such evil beings, the holy light spell that could cause the greatest damage was still directly cast by Fea. Therefore, the core of this plan revolved around Fea. After positioning, Fea would activate full firepower output mode. When Han Dong and Coastland were assisting in the attack, they needed to ensure Fea's safety. Before the operation, Fea also had a worried face. Brother Cass, be careful. The diary mentioned that during the evil refinement, a 100-year-old parasol tree was accidentally integrated into it. This was also the reason why the branch structure appeared on the ghosts. The other party may use plant-type abilities. You must be careful. Yes, we fought against the tree spirit together in the Destiny space. I still have some experience. While I'm holding the ghost back, Fea, you have to quickly stand in position with the two of them. If there is any danger, I will do my best to protect you." Hearing Cass's words, Fea's cheeks also turned red. She liked Cass, not simply because Cass was handsome and had a different knightly temperament. It was because when danger came, Cass would always block in front of her. No matter how dangerous it was, Cass would always be the first to stand up. Regardless of life or death, Cass would also let his teammates leave first. Phew! When Fea jumped down to the storeroom on the first floor, the sunny smile on Cass' face immediately disappeared. He instantly sank into battle mode. He took a deep breath. Cass was also a little nervous. After all, he was still unsure of the characteristics of the target he was about to face. The contamination of the diary from before was able to crack Coslin's goggles, causing him to be deeply contaminated. What I need to face is a strange existence that has fused 5 people, and it has also fused with the characteristics of plants. Knight Celeste was already deep underground, so it was impossible for her to provide support. If my teammates don't have enough firepower, I will most likely die here. If I can't even do this, I won't be able to get enough benefits in the next difficult Destiny space. Sooner or later, I will be eliminated from the ranks of knights. A scorching cross appeared between Cass's eyebrows. His nervousness disappeared, and there was no longer any fear in his eyes. Crack! He kicked the door of the study into smithereens, deliberately making a noise to attract the attention of the spirit. But there was nothing outside the door. What entered Cass's eyes was only a fully restored high-class mansion. He couldn't detect the existence of any ghosts at all. Crusader had a strong physique that was different from others, as well as the ability to control all kinds of weapons. After the talent tree matured, they could even control all kinds of elements and attach their energy to weapons or restructure the body, etc. But there were still shortcomings. That was the detection and perception ability. He could only use his own perception and eyes to capture the target. Although he could be the leader of the team, he still needed a teammate who was proficient in detection to assist him. In the past, Coslin was in charge of detection in the team. As he couldn't capture the target immediately, coupled with the gloomy and cold environment of the mansion and the faint crying sound coming from the corner, Cass couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Where did it go? Cass tried to walk slowly in the corridor on the second floor, fully alert. Even if someone suddenly attacked from behind, he could quickly slash in the opposite direction. However, there were still flaws, and that was under his feet. Walking in the wooden corridor, slender plant vines slowly grew out from the cracks in the floor, completely escaping Cass's perception. Step! When he took another step, the growth speed of the vines increased sharply, and they instantly wrapped around Cass's legs. Fixed! Not only that, the vines continued to wrap upward, binding Cass's body and arms. This kind of vine was extremely tough. Once entangled in large numbers, it was very difficult to break free with brute force. Even Cass, a 3-star crusader, couldn't do it. Oh no! At the same time, the white curtains slowly lowered in front of Cass. A terrifying woman half hidden in the white cloth came into contact with Cass at almost 0 distance. The experienced Cass had already closed his eyes at the first moment, resisting the invasion of the pollution to the greatest extent. At the same time, Cass's wrist, which could barely move, was touching a certain item at his waist. Of course, it was impossible for a ghost to just stand there and not move. Squeak, squeak, the sound of something slippery growing. A terrifying object was growing in the woman's palm. It was a soft root, its form between a plant and a tentacle. In addition to having plant characteristics, it was soft and slippery overall. When this soft root stuck to Cass's armor, it immediately produced white smoke, seemingly corroding the pure silver armor. Squeak, squeak. The root stuck to the armor and wriggled up, crawling straight to his face. The degree of danger was self-evident. Once Cass's eyelids were opened, everything would be over. At the critical moment, Pei felt the good item at Cass's waist. Kerosene bomb. It was a flame bomb made by Coslin. Cass, who had experience fighting against the tree spirit, knew very well that evil creatures related to trees must be afraid of fire. The kerosene bomb was forcefully thrown out through his wrist. When it collided with an object, the combustion accelerant inside immediately reacted and burned with the oxygen in the air, detonating the glass bomb and igniting the fuel inside. Boom! Flames rose. The front half of Cass's body was also enveloped in flames, and the plants that clung to Cass' armor were completely burned. Cross slash. The long sword with the effect of holy light quickly slashed, and, at the same time, it was followed by a roundhouse kick, hitting the ghost's abdomen. This kick directly sent the flaming ghost flying. At the same time, Koslin, who had just finished setting up his gun at a distance, locked onto the ghost's body and fired 3 shots in a row. The silver bullet with the holy light attribute accurately penetrated the ghost's fatal part. Chapter 76. The joint attack wasn't over yet. Just as the 3 bullets pierced the specter's body, a holy light descended and enveloped the specter's entire body. Holy light, fire, and silver bullets hit the vitals. A blood-curdling scream reverberated inside the building. In the blink of an eye, only a pile of charred white cloth was left. All of this was done by the combined efforts of Cass, Koslin, and Sophia. Han Dong didn't make any movements because Han Dong felt that these attacks were enough, and he faintly smelled that something was wrong. During the battle, Han Dong kept feeling that someone was spying on them from some dark corner. Is it dead? No, something is still watching us from the dark. Everyone be careful. When Han Dong said this, everyone continued to maintain a state of alert. Cass, who was standing alone in the corridor on the 2nd floor, quickly took off the silver armor that was still burning. He quickly extinguished the flames and put it back on. Just now, it was really thrilling. If he hadn't anticipated the opponent's plant attribute in advance and prepared a kerosene bomb, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Just as Cass was putting on his armor again, he caught a glimpse of Sophia's location from the corner of his eye. There were slender vines growing continuously from the floor. Sophia, on the ground. When Cass shouted these words, the plants immediately grew wildly. Obviously, the thing hidden in this building had a complete consciousness. After the specter was killed just now, it judged that Sophia was the biggest threat, so she had to be eliminated first. Sophia was located between Koslin and Han Dong, with a distance of 2 meters between the two of them. But facing the plants that suddenly grew from the floor, Koslin reacted extremely quickly. He put away his gun and took out holy water. Bang! A bottle of holy water was thrown over. Who knew that the holy water didn't have the slightest effect on these plants? This indirectly showed that these controlled plants didn't have the evil attribute mixed in. They were just ordinary plants that were being controlled. It also showed that Sophia's holy light magic didn't have any effect on these plants. With her ability, she couldn't break free from the vine's bindings. In this situation, it was even more impossible to throw a kerosene bomb. Unlike Cass, who was wearing armor, the flames would severely burn Sophia. Cass couldn't make it in time from such a long distance. Creak, creak, creak. The wildly growing vines had already wrapped around Sophia's feet. Even if she took out a small dagger and cut a few vines, it was completely useless. The separated vines would continue to grow. Unknowingly, Sophia had already been skillfully bound by these rattan vines, unable to move. At the same time, a piece of white cloth appeared on the floor, indicating that the spirit was about to appear. The situation was extremely dangerous. The 3 members of the team were in a state of panic and could not think of a way out. Han Dong silently watched this scene. He had already simulated many rescue methods in his mind, but all of them could possibly harm Sophia. There was only one way to prevent any injuries. In the prison cell, the woman in red who was facing the wall suddenly disappeared. Miss Chun-Li, I'm counting on you. A unique evil aura appeared in the hall. Whoosh! The saber shadows overlapped and accurately cut the vines wrapped around Sophia's body. Under the black hair, a pair of terrifying red eyes met Sophia's gaze, scaring the latter into retreating continuously. She just so happened to be out of the range of the plant's bindings. Then, the woman in red turned her gaze to the ground. A pale arm wrapped in evil aura quickly stretched out and grabbed the strange white cloth on the ground. Relying on brute force, she pulled the spirit out. What followed was a series of chaotic saber techniques that had no order at all. The kitchen knife with evil aura wildly cut through the spirit's body. The tentacle-like plant branches were all chopped into pieces. Chun-Li relied on her own strength to kill the spirit. Moreover, Chun-Li was the same as Han Dong, unaffected by the pollution. Staring at the second dead spirit, Han Dong realized something. The pollution source hidden in Beck's mansion was secretly controlling the spirit. Hurry up and go to the backyard, since nightfall can show the mansion's original appearance. Maybe the backyard has also been restored. When Han Dong shouted these words, he was stunned. Other than Cass, who moved, Coslin and Sophia were a little confused. Staring at this terrifying woman in red with messy black hair and holding a kitchen knife, they were slightly afraid because they did not know her origins. Cass hurriedly explained, "This is the powerful summon of Andwa's friend that I told you about before. Hurry up." Andwa is right. Since the other party can control ordinary plants, then there's a higher possibility that the main body is in the backyard. Sophia, who was rescued, slowly came back to her senses. Her gaze shifted from the woman in red to Han Dong. She bit her lips slightly and nodded in thanks. The four of them gathered and prepared to leave through the main door and head to the backyard. Who knew? Boom! With a loud bang, the thick wooden door of the mansion suddenly closed, and a large number of plant vines grew out for the cracks of the door, reinforcing the door. At the same time, another spirit appeared in the corner of the hall. Just as everyone was preparing for battle, Cass's face was full of anger. The reason why he was angry was because the other party had directly attacked the weak woman in the team. If it weren't for Han Dong's ability, Sophia would have been seriously injured. Cass decisively took out a kerosene bomb and threw it heavily on the door. When the fire spread and burned a part of the plants on the door, Cass concentrated his strength on his legs and left arm. He lowered his center of gravity. Brute force plus shield bash. There was only a loud bang. Pieces of wood and charred plant vines splattered in all directions. It was clear how strong Cass's physical fitness was to forcefully break open the 3-meter-tall thick door with his own strength. It was also because of this that the team successfully left the mansion and went straight to the backyard. Their guess was correct. In the center of the backyard, which was originally overgrown with weeds, there was a giant parasol tree. Its size was so huge that it even occupied the entire backyard, and part of the tree trunk was connected to the mansion. At the bottom of the giant tree, there was a small tree hole that could be entered by a single person. If they wanted to eliminate the spirit lingering in Beck's mansion, it seemed that they would need to go deep into the tree hole and kill the real body of the pollution. Bang! Coslin directly grabbed a kerosene bomb and threw it over, wanting to burn the big tree directly with fire. Naturally, things were not that simple. The flames could only burn the shallow bark and could not spread to the surface of the big tree. Soon, it extinguished itself. The white spirit had already floated out of the mansion's door, not giving them too much time to think. They had to make a prompt decision. "Friend Andwa, leave the rest to us. The three of us have worked together many times, and we've already confirmed that the spirit's main body is in this big tree. We'll go in deep. You stay outside and bring up the rear, cleaning up the spirit that's chasing after us." Since Han Dong's summoned creature could deal with the spirit, then he would stay behind to bring up the rear. With the support of Fia's holy light, Cass was confident that he could defeat the source of the infection inside. When the time came, Curse would ignite the fire from the inside and completely burn this strange tree. "All right, you guys be careful. Don't worry. The spirit only has an additional attribute of pollution. In terms of difficulty, it can't be compared to the things in the Destiny realm." Cass and the other two quickly entered the tree hole. Han Dong and Miss Chun-Li stood where they were, looking straight at the spirit that floated over, unmoved. "Do you need me to do it?" Chun-Li asked. "No, I'll do it myself." The spirit floated over to Han Dong. No matter how the spirit stretched out her soft tree root fingers and touched Han Dong's body, let out terrifying cries, or took off the white cloth to reveal a disgusting face full of eyes. Han Dong was completely unmoved, shrugging helplessly. "Ha!" Han Dong reached out his hand and grabbed the female spirit's head. A thick and spotted tentacle rapidly penetrated deep in her head. Gurgle, gurgle. It seemed to be absorbing the spirit's brain essence. However, it was a little different this time. Not only was it absorbing energy, it also seemed to be absorbing some memories and cell essence. Chapter 77. Some memories of a wife being killed by a cruel husband flashed through his mind. At the same time, there were also scenes of other family members being killed. Among these fragmented images, there were many scenes of the family head, Beck Marcellus. However, this family head was no longer an ordinary human, but a terrifying creature with tentacles all over its face. Han Dong had already learned about this experience through the diary, so he quickly skipped over some unimportant scenes. The main purpose was to try to search for an important item in these memory scenes. A magic book that brought bad luck to the Beck family. Soon, Han Dong found it in the fragmented memory scenes of his youngest son. One day, Beck forgot to lock the study when he left. His youngest son inadvertently ran into the study while playing and found the sutured leather book on the desk. That's right, the cover of the book was made of leather similar to pig skin. However, the leather was somewhat yellow and there was no obvious pig hair. From the image, it looked more like skin taken from a human. Moreover, there were obvious suture marks on the surface of the book cover, with black lines freely interweaving. The most noticeable thing was that there was an eye in the center of the book cover, a real eye that could move. His youngest son screamed when he saw this scene, and the memory fragments ended there. No wonder Beck didn't hesitate to use the family fund to buy this book when he saw it. For a failed man who was eliminated by the Knight Academy and bullied by the girl all day long, this was like a life-saving straw appearing on the road of life. He would definitely grab it. However, he didn't expect this straw to lead him into the endless abyss. However, this book is harmful to him, but it's another matter for me. If possible, I have to find a way to get this book. Han Dong's interest in the book was piqued. In the following time, Han Dong found it a little boring to stay outside. Because Cass and the others went deep into the tree hole, the other party had no intention of dealing with Han Dong, who was outside. With Cass and the others' strength, as long as they can block the pollution, dealing with this kind of thing shouldn't be a problem. Miss Chun-Li, let's go back to the mansion and take a look. Okay. Under the night sky, Chun-Li liked to wear her hair disheveled like this and deliberately covered her face. At the same time, he was also used to the strange twisting of his joints and the sound of his joints dislocating when he walked. He did not deliberately create a scary atmosphere. It was just a personal habit. When night falls and the mansion is restored, perhaps there will be unexpected changes in some places. Yes, let's go to Beck's single bedroom. Becker had a separate bedroom on the first floor. Because of their relationship, they started sleeping separately 2 years ago. In the previous investigation, this bedroom was completely destroyed due to the collapse of the ceiling. A large amount of reinforced concrete blocked the door, making it impossible to enter. When night fell and the mansion was restored to its original state, Han Dong opened the door. Furthermore, through the memory fragments that flashed through his mind, he quickly discovered a secret passage that went deep underground under the bed. The passageway had obvious traces of man-made construction. Cement steps had been built to make it easier to go down. Should I go down? After a brief consideration, Han Dong called Miss Chun-Li and walked down. An arrogant and cold female knight, like Celeste, has a personality very similar to a female teacher in the academy when she was alive. She is too headstrong and will definitely not ask for help from people of lower status than her. Calculating the time, it has been almost an hour since Knight Celeste entered the underground area. With her strength, she will either quickly finish off the demonized Beck Marcellus or be trapped underground due to a problem. Although she said that if there is anything she needs help with, she will tell me through the communication device. But will such a headstrong person like her ask for our help? Even she finds it difficult to deal with someone. How can we, a bunch of rookies, deal with him? Also, there is her sister in the team whom she cares about very much. If she is in danger, she will definitely not ask for our help. Of course, there is a certain possibility that the communication device has been blocked underground, making it impossible for her to contact us. In any case, I have to go down and take a look. If possible, I must obtain the spellbook. Han Dong did not think that his and Chun Li's combined strength would be comparable to the famous Retribution Paladin Celeste. However, Han Dong was not afraid of corruption at all. Just based on this characteristic, coupled with his curiosity and desire for the mysterious spellbook, he decided to go deep into the underground lair and personally witness Beck Marcellus's great plan. There was no danger during the descent. The stone steps were about 30 meters deep, corresponding to the pitch-black underground cavern. There was a thick smell of oil in the air, as if a cruel massacre had happened not long ago. Could the ritual have been completed? Why is there no sound? Han Dong did not take out a torch, as the light would easily expose him. The crow's beak mask had a certain level of night vision, so he began to explore the cavern. Not long after moving forward in the darkness, Han Dong saw some green flames. When he got closer, he realized that the source of the flames was the sacrificial array. Han Dong hid behind 2 stone pillars and looked at the situation inside the array through the gap. The ritual has been completed. In the spacious underground space, the walls were filled with green flame torches. A huge array was drawn with oil, and there were many strange words that Han Dong could not recognize. A large number of broken skeletons were scattered in the array. Obviously, the ritual had been completed, but he could not see Beck Marcellus, who had led all of this, nor could he see Knight Celeste. Han Dong did not know what had happened. At this moment, a somewhat cold hand fell on Han Dong's shoulder and dragged him into the darkness. Chun Li's eyes were fierce as she raised her kitchen knife and was about to attack. "Miss Chun Li, this is a friend. You go back first." Han Dong was very decisive as he put Chun Li back into the portable prison. The one who dragged Han Dong into the darkness was the Retribution Paladin Celeste. She was injured, with one hand covering her bleeding waist and the other grabbing Han Dong. She lowered her voice as much as possible. "What are you doing here? Where's Sophia?" Han Dong immediately replied, "They're fine. I made the judgment and came down to support you. You can't help. You should have come down from another path, right? Quickly bring me up and report the situation to the Night Order. The target has used the ritual to lure the powerful creature outside the city wall into his body. This place is his home ground, not suitable for us to fight." At this moment, creak, creak, the squirming sound of something slippery was heard. Han Dong and Celeste held their breaths at the same time. Chapter 78. It was very obvious. The one who emitted this slippery, wriggling sound was Beck Marcellus, who had completed his great plan. He was searching for Celeste, who had escaped due to her injuries. However, the sound that lingered nearby soon disappeared into the distance. The other party hasn't fused with the life outside the city for long enough. It's not very stable, and its perception is lacking. Once it stabilizes, it will soon find us. We have to hurry. Ugh. Celeste, who had always been strong and patient, cried out in pain. However, because she couldn't make too much noise, she deliberately suppressed her cries. Han Dong, who was at the side, felt a little strange when he heard this. As a paladin, Celeste had a certain level of medical ability. For example, the ordinary holy light spell could treat ordinary injuries. However, she had no way to deal with the injuries she was currently suffering. The serious injury on her waist and abdomen had to be treated by a professional healing type knight, and it also required the use of various precision instruments. If it wasn't handled properly, there would be all kinds of side effects. Han Dong, who was wearing the crow goggles, looked at Celeste's wound. A large number of finger-sized tentacles grew on the surface of the wound, as if they were trying to drill into her body. Celeste spent most of her energy around the wound to prevent these tentacles from invading. As the tentacles kept wriggling on the surface, the wound kept expanding. Stalling for time was of no benefit to Celeste. "Won't holy water work?" Han Dong asked. "No, this isn't an ordinary contaminant. These tentacles have reached a certain level of strength. It's not the simple contaminants you come into contact with in the inner city. This is a true high-level life form. When these tentacles come into contact with holy water, there will be a strong reaction. Not only will it not be destroyed in a short period of time, but it will also stimulate it to run wildly, tear open the wound, and even enter my body. Let's not talk about this anymore. Hurry up and bring me up." Han Dong didn't move at all. Instead, he said in a low voice, "What do you think is the probability of being discovered if I help you up?" "About 50%. Also, your sister, Faya, and 2 other teammates are now fighting a type of contaminant in a special scene. Even if we can escape, once it catches up, Faya and the others will also be in danger." Hearing Han Dong's words, Celeste was moved. Due to the influence of the evil array formation in the underground area, there's no way to send any information out. One has to go up to the surface to inform the knights. But just as Han Dong said, it would be troublesome if Beck Marcellus was accidentally lured up. The only way was to kill the fallen Beck, who had not fully adapted to his new body in the underground cave. "If you don't mind, Knight Celeste, I have a way to remove the contaminants from your wounds." "You? The kid who just allocated 2 stars to mysticism? Stop joking. If you disturb it, it will enter my body and destroy my organs. You will be indirectly murdering a knight." Celeste did not take Han Dong's words seriously at all. Phew! Han Dong took a deep breath. While Celeste was not paying attention, he fully activated the power of Ghoul Arm and turned around to press her to the ground. As mentioned before, due to the injury on her waist, Celeste spent most of her energy on the wound and did not dare to make any big movements. She only stared angrily at Han Dong, who was on top of her. "What are you doing?" Since explaining was useless, Han Dong directly made his move. His right palm forcefully pressed against the wound on Celeste's waist. He took the initiative to come into close contact with those strange tentacles. Something unexpected happened. These small tentacles could not struggle and resist at all. In the blink of an eye, they were absorbed by Han Dong in reverse. The contaminants disappeared, and the pressure on Celeste disappeared. She exerted strength on her waist and abdomen and did a carp flip, pressing Han Dong to the ground. Her fist was suspended in midair. She glared angrily at this trainee knight who was disrespectful to her. If this fist were to land on him, there was a 90% chance that Han Dong would die. Even if his head was smashed, there would be a large hole in the ground. The mission of the Holy Knights and the noble education she received since young gave Celeste a special kind of self-esteem. The humiliation of being pressed down by a trainee knight who was 10 times weaker than her stimulated her self-esteem. In addition, there was something wrong with the ability Han Dong displayed. "If I didn't forcefully do this, I wouldn't have had the chance to heal you." Han Dong's words stunned her for a while. Taking the initiative to heal her meant that although Han Dong's ability was problematic, he was definitely not on the same side as the enemy. Otherwise, he would have made a move just now or made a loud noise to attract the fallen baker over. After about 10 seconds of careful consideration, Celeste retracted her fist and calmed herself down. She pulled Han Dong up and continued to hide in the darkness. As the contaminants were completely removed, Celeste took out a highly effective healing potion from her waist and applied it on the wound on her waist. Under the stimulation of the potion, the cell division accelerated, and the flesh that multiplied connected itself to seal the wound and repair it. Celeste said with a serious face, "Do you know, the ability you just displayed is enough to put you in the Supreme Council's court. No matter how you explain, no matter if you're human or not, you will be treated as an experiment for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you will be reduced to an experimental subject, living a life worse than death. I know. In addition, I also know that if I don't do this, the 2 of us might die here." Han Dong's reply made Celeste speechless. The female knight's crystal-like eyes stared at Han Dong at such a close distance. She was considering if she should cooperate with this trainee knight. Time was tight. Celeste grabbed Han Dong's shoulder and pulled him closer to her. Their bodies were even stuck together. Due to her injury, Celeste had temporarily taken off her light armor and was only wearing a corset. A unique fragrance flowed into Han Dong's nose. It wasn't perfume, but Celeste's natural fragrance. It made Han Dong feel refreshed and energized. Celeste said sternly, "Kid, I need to confirm your identity. Tell me who your mentor is and where you usually train." Han Dong handed over his trainee knight identity card and said, "My mentor is my mentor. First counselor, Pasha Harbut. Second counselor, Mr. Black-White. Usually, I study plague studies in the old sewers." Crow Prophet. When she heard Mr. Black and White's name, Celeste was shocked. Although they belonged to different orders of knights, she still knew Mr. Black and White's name. Her heart was even filled with reverence. "All right, next, we will work together to kill the fallen who have fused with life outside the city through a sacrificial ritual. I will cast all kinds of holy light blessings on you and greatly reduce the effects of the contamination on you. The only thing you need to do is to remove these things for me when I am corroded by the tentacles." That Han Dong was too close to Celeste and was a little stuffy. After all, Han Dong's current poor physical condition and 30 years of being single made it normal for him to be stuffy. "Speak. I don't need blessings. This contamination shouldn't be of any use to me. Save your energy to deal with the fallen." Celeste widened her eyes again and observed this two-star mysterious apprentice from a distance. Her thoughts were a little complicated. She could only confirm that Han Dong was not in cahoots with the fallen. Otherwise, she would have died long ago. She couldn't figure out what kind of thing this two-star apprentice was at the moment. Chapter 79. What the hell are you? Human, Han Dong answered without hesitation. Celeste finally compromised and reached a temporary cooperation agreement with Han Dong. "Okay, if I'm not injured during the battle, you don't have to come out. Even if you're not afraid of the contamination, with your physical fitness, you'll be torn apart if you're not careful." "Okay." Suddenly, the stern-looking Celeste shifted her gaze slightly, and her words became a little hesitant. Anyway, about treating my wounds. Thank you. If you can kill this completely corrupted person, we can discuss your abilities in private." "Okay." Han Dong was not worried at all. After all, Mr. Black and White had left him a way out in this matter. Once the matter here was settled, Han Dong would immediately open the scroll. Even if some information leaked out, Mr. Black and White would deal with it in private. Just like that, the two of them began their battle plan. This would be Han Dong's first indirect contact with a life form outside the city, and it would also be Han Dong's first time cooperating with a real knight in battle. Baker's Mansion. The flames had already ignited inside the giant, aberrant sycamore tree. Before the tree was burned and collapsed, Cass and the other two successfully escaped through the tree hole. With the strength of the three and their skillful cooperation, they successfully entered the interior and killed the main body of the ghost, a female head entangled in countless tree roots. During the battle, Cass, who was in charge of leading the charge, had deep cuts on his shoulders, armpits, waist, and inner thighs. He had also been contaminated to a certain extent. Currently, Sophia was applying healing holy light magic and using holy water to wash away the contamination in his wounds. "Where's Brother Andwa?" Cass, who was receiving treatment, was the first to think of Han Dong. He looked around and called out his name. However, no sound came from the gloomy mansion. Impossible. Andwa's friend, together with his powerful summoned creature, might be a little stronger than me in terms of overall strength. His summoned creature could directly kill ghosts. There shouldn't be a problem for him to stay outside and cover the rear. Cass found that the communication device could not be connected. After receiving treatment, Cass immediately started searching the mansion. His eyes were filled with worry. "Captain Cass, we found something here." Coslin's detection ability was still very strong. In the master's bedroom on the first floor, they found a secret passageway that led downwards. Obviously, this passage should lead to the same place as the passage at the bottom of the lake. Brother Andwa, could it be that you've chosen to go down first? At the side, Sophia hurriedly followed up. Big Sister said that she would only tell us to go down when she needs our help. It's best if we don't go down. Otherwise, if we disturb Big Sister, she might be angry. If there is really danger, we will only be a burden if we go down. Cass had the opposite opinion. Andwa's friend also knows this, but he still chose to go down. The reason might be related to time. We spent more than an hour searching the mansion and killing the spirit's main body. On the other hand, Knight Celeste, who had gone underground, did not send any messages back. If everything went well for her, she would have come up long ago. Hearing this, Fea also began to worry. Yes, my sister has always been very strong. Even if she is in danger, she will not ask for help, not to mention that we are only apprentice knights. Go down. Raise your spirits by 100% and go down to support them. Cass would never allow his companions, who had gone through life and death with him, to die in this bounty mission. He had to bring Han Dong out of the mansion safely. Underground, in the center of the sacrificial array burning with green flames, Han Dong finally saw the true form of the patriarch, Beck Marcellus. To be precise, it should be frowny-faced the fallen Beck. What is this? Beck's current form had already exceeded Han Dong's imagination. He immediately understood what life outside the city was and why humans, who had already mastered firearms, would be completely defeated in a short period of time. Since his rebirth, Han Dong had already seen some contaminated bodies. Ghoul, old woman moving horizontally, tree spirit ghost. Even if these things had lost their self-awareness, they still maintained a human form. At least 80% of them still looked like humans. In terms of body shape and various characteristics, they belonged to the category of humans. However, this Beck Marcellus had already exceeded this limit. First, let's talk about body shape and characteristics. 3 meters. I'm afraid it's close to 4 meters tall. Other than the swollen head that barely resembled a human, the rest of the body was already inhuman. Most of it was made up of blood-red tentacles. As the tentacles that made up his body wriggled, one could vaguely see hideous human heads hidden inside. They were the poor security personnel and their families used for the sacrifice. These tentacles seemed to be freely controlled by Beck. If it wanted to be soft, it could be soft, quickly entangling and invading the target's body. If it wanted to be hard, it could be harder than steel, turning into a drill and tearing the target's body apart. To fight such a thing, with Han Dong's current ability, he would probably die after being toyed with by the other party. Moreover, the fallen Beck also had a terrifying characteristic. On his back, there was a giant eye with a radius of about 1 meter. This made it impossible to sneak an attack on him from behind. As long as an ordinary novice knight looked at this giant eye directly, they would probably turn into pus. A few people's bodies might be able to resist this strong contamination, but they would also degenerate and become Beck slaves. Celeste simply analyzed the current situation. This guy seems to be planning to activate the evil formation again to suppress the sacrificial victim whose consciousness has not completely dissipated. Once all the sacrificial victim's consciousness is gone, he will become a completely independent body and will be even more difficult to deal with. I'm ready. Alolan boy, remember this. Once you see that I've been contaminated, immediately come out and treat me. After the treatment, hide obediently. I'll attract its attention. You don't have to worry. Okay, after saying that, Celeste began to prepare for battle. She drank a bottle of magic holy water that shone with blue starlight. This holy water could not only increase an individual's resistance to contamination, but also continuously replenish magic power. At the same time, she continuously applied buffs to herself. King's Blessing, Life Blessing, Retribution Blessing, Strength Blessing. The buff was complete. Just as the fallen Beck was about to activate the formation again, Celeste flew out and waved the flail in her hand with all her strength. A 1-meter-long holy hammer was formed in midair, and it smashed into Beck's chest. Several of his tentacles were broken and shattered. However, as soon as the broken tentacles fell to the ground, they seemed to have an independent consciousness and immediately crawled back to the main body. Han Dong, who was hiding in the dark, noticed a key detail. The fallen Beck. He had just made an inconspicuous retraction action. When attacked, he quickly retracted an important item similar to a book in his back area. Chapter 80. So this is a night. Han Dong, who was hiding in the dark, was completely shocked by the battle that erupted next. The duel between the female knight and the fallen was far beyond the scope of human beings, not to mention magic and superpowers. Just the most basic physical fitness alone was enough to shock Han Dong. Celeste could reach a height of 5 meters with a normal knee jump, easily surpassing Beck the Fallen. Her flail could penetrate a 1-meter-thick stone wall and even create a deep pit in the ground. Coupled with the various offensive holy light magic of the Holy Army, she continued to put pressure on her opponent. Beck the Fallen had not fully adapted to his body due to the interference of distracting thoughts in his body. His lack of flexibility caused him to be in a state of being suppressed. On the surface, Celeste did seem to have the advantage. But there was a problem. Even if every flail attack could shatter several tentacles, it still could not hurt the Fallen's origin. The shattered tentacles would either crawl back to the main body or grow a new one. The Holy Army is not a pure offensive member, and they also need to hold a shield. Moreover, part of the Holy Light magic is also a buff type. The only things that can actually be used in battle are the throwing Holy Light attacks and the covering of holy flames on the surface of the flail. Her positioning is more towards defense and team buffs. Only with the cooperation of teammates can she fully display her strength. In a situation where she attracts the target's aggro to a large extent, she needs a teammate with enough offensive power to deal a fatal blow to the target. If this continues, she will sooner or later exhaust her stamina and lose the battle. I have to do something. Han Dong, who was hiding in the shadows, released Chun-Li again. Because she sensed the two powerful auras, Chun-Li instinctively retreated and tried her best to blend into the darkness without revealing anything. When Han Dong gave the battle plan, Chun-Li immediately shook her head. It's too dangerous. We might all die. If we don't take the risk, we will die in the end. Why not take the risk? Chun-Li disagreed and still rejected the idea of a head-on battle. We can just run away now and let the female knight stall this fallen monster. After this, at most, it will judge your mission as a failure, right? Chun-Li was not a warm-hearted person. When she judged that the enemy's strength was far above hers, she only thought of surviving, not throwing her life away. No, my goal is also not to save this female knight, but to obtain the magic book hidden in the fallen's body. I need your help, Chun-Li. The master-servant relationship was faintly taking effect. Chun-Li found it hard to reject Han Dong's request, but she was still unwilling to take the risk. What if he dies? Living in such a world, a large number of humans die every day. If we don't do something, if we don't fight for something important, we will die sooner or later. My intuition told me that this book would be of great use to me. Furthermore, if I can cooperate with Celeste to kill this fallen one that is fused with the life forms outside the city walls, I will be able to obtain a large amount of cell essence and have a higher chance of survival in the next Fate Realm. Miss Chun-Li, sorry to trouble you. Let's do as you say. Chun-Li's eyes were gloomy. She began to move her joints in a dark corner to warm up. Judgment of the Hammer. Celeste used a unique skill. When she swung the flail in her hand, a large portion of the holy energy was extracted from the fallen one's head. A giant hammer of holy light was formed on the fallen one's head and suddenly fell. When she released this attack, Celeste's consciousness was shaken and she knelt on one knee. She was unable to continue the attack. When the giant hammer fell, fallen one Beck stretched out his arms full of tentacles to block it. Asterisk sizzle. Asterisk due to the repelling attributes. The arms used to block kept emitting black steam. The tentacles on the surface quickly turned into a filthy mucus and kept dripping to the ground. Asterisk crack. Asterisk the holy hammer also contained a huge amount of power. The pressure made Beck's legs tremble slightly and sink into the ground. However, this kind of holy hammer that relied on energy to form would not last forever, as the contaminants were offset. When the black steam was emitted, the light of the holy hammer also gradually weakened. If this continued, at most, Beck's arms would be destroyed, but it would not be enough to kill him. Celeste gritted her teeth as she watched this scene. A mere trainee knight who was expelled. How could he withstand such a powerful creature from outside the wall? With his physical state, he should have disintegrated during the process of acceptance. Why was he able to perfectly accept it? This was the question that Celeste did not understand the most. Acceptance and possession. It was not a matter of finding a random host. The host's physical body had to be strong enough. Otherwise, it would turn into a pile of mud during the process of accepting the foreign object. Damn it, I did not expect the second level to give birth to such a troublesome fallen one. If I can get out alive, I must report this to the higher-ups. In recent years, the creatures outside have been wanting to invade us more and more, and their methods have become more and more secretive. But with my current methods, it is difficult to kill this thing. What should I do? Consume the remaining energy of the holy tree and cut off all means of retreat? Celeste stared at the giant holy hammer that was about to be offset and prepared to make a terrible decision. A red shadow flashed out from the corner. It climbed up Fallen One Beck's shoulder from the side. Celeste attracted the attention from the front, and there were huge eyes on the back. The side was the best position for a surprise attack. The tentacles all over Beck's body were subjective. When they felt a foreign object approaching, they would immediately wrap around it. Swish, swish, the kitchen knife, covered in evil energy, slashed rapidly, and the tentacles were all cut off. Her gaze locked onto Beck's head. That's right. Han Dong's request was for Chun-Li to lock onto Beck's head. This was because Beck only had his head that was barely maintaining his human form. Once his head was injured, even if he did not die, he would be affected to a certain extent, right? Chun-Li was a containment creature, staying in a cell full of chaotic tentacles. She was also not afraid of any form of contamination. Taking advantage of the Fallen One's great opportunity to resist the holy hammer, she quickly climbed from the side to his shoulder, avoiding contact with the huge eye on his back. The eye on his back was a feature that Han Dong was very concerned about. The mysterious magic book seemed to be hidden inside. Moreover, from the previous battle, Celeste was also afraid of this eye. She fought head-on the entire time. Because of the huge eye on his back, it was difficult to sneak attack this Fallen One from the back. Chun-Li, do it. Try to attract its attention as much as possible. The sharp kitchen knife slashed violently at Beck's bloated head. Crack! With one slash, the skull was split open. A sudden change occurred. Suddenly, a different kind of brain tentacle gushed out from the skull's crack. The kitchen knife was unable to cut through this kind of tentacle. Swish. The petroleum liquid splashed all over the ground. The tentacle easily pierced through Chun-Li's shoulders and hung her in the air. The eye on her back stared directly at her. At this moment, the youth hidden in the dark moved. Chapter 81. This is and was summoned creature. A 2-star summoned creature can reach this level of strength? While Celeste was surprised, she did not stay idle. She drank another bottle of mana potion. Consumed during cooldown, the effect is very poor. She forcefully propped herself up and dashed in front of Beck, using her flail and light shield to attack him directly. Clang! As the gigantic holy hammer above his head was about to dissipate, Fallen Beck freed up one of his hands and heavily slammed his palm onto the light shield, forcefully pushing Celeste back more than 2 meters. Ignoring the aftershocks of the collision spreading through her body, Celeste clenched her teeth and continued to fight the Fallen in close combat. Whoosh! A small amount of oil splashed on Celeste's face. She looked up. The red-clothed woman who had suddenly appeared from the dark and launched a sneak attack had her shoulder pierced through and hung in the air. Celeste gritted her teeth and muttered, I was too naive. How can the summoned creature of a 2-star mysterious apprentice fight against a fallen of this level? No, I can't go on like this. I have to use all my energy. What is he doing? Just as Celeste was about to cut off all means of retreat, she saw Han Dong sneaking out of a dark corner from the corner of her eye. She could not understand this kind of suicidal behavior. The view changed Han Dong. Phew, Han Dong took a deep breath. This opportunity was even better than he had expected. Celeste attracted the attention of the front, and the eye on the back happened to be staring at Chun-Li. However, he could not afford to waste time. Chun-Li's condition was extremely dangerous. Even if the pollution did not affect her, a nerve-shaped tentacle grew from the center of the eye. Once this thing entered Chun-Li's brain, the consequences would be unimaginable. Chun-Li's shoulders were pierced through and lifted up. She looked straight at the wriggling nerve tentacle, but she did not show any expression of pain. Her eyes shone with a crimson light as she stared angrily at the giant eye on the back. She did her best to attract the attention of the eye so that her master could have a chance to approach. I can't rush. I must not rush. I must get close at the most precise time. There is only one chance. Han Dong ignored all external disturbances and made the most precise calculations in his brain. He approached Beck from the back diagonally. 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. When the distance reached 3 meters, the nerve tentacles were already stuck to Chun-Li's face. They were prying open her skin and trying to drill inside. Han Dong calmed himself down. If he panicked at this moment, he would be discovered by the eyeballs. 2 meters. Screams. Chun-Li, who had great endurance, let out a scream at this moment. When the nerve tentacles drilled into her skull, it seemed to have stimulated her brain region. Sticky liquid flowed out of her 7 orifices. The pain was unimaginable. Han Dong was still enduring. 1 meter. At this time, the nerves were already attached to the surface of Chun-Li's brain and were about to connect to the cerebral layer. The anger that had been suppressed for so long completely erupted. Under the bird mask, Han Dong, who originally had an ordinary face, suddenly revealed a ferocious look. He didn't use any weapon of fate. He did not show his ghoul arm. Instead, he placed his right palm on the giant eyeball. Chirp! Chirp! The tentacles were growing. The speckled, dark-colored tentacles drilled directly into the eyeball. The reason why Han Dong chose to do this was because when he treated Knight Celeste's waist and abdomen injury, the tentacles that grew out of his palm could instantly suppress the tentacles on the surface of the wound. Just from this point alone, in terms of the level of the tentacles, Han Dong was 1 level higher. Based on this point, Han Dong chose to do this. In comparison, Plague Doctor Shortblade and Ghoul Arm were difficult to cause damage to such a high-level fallen. Tentacles connected, reverse contamination. A kind of contaminant with spots began to spread on the surface of the eyeball. At the same time, Han Dong faintly felt that his consciousness seemed to be connected with the consciousness in this eyeball. Buzz. Tinnitus. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong was standing in the mysterious space built by the black sludge. In the center of the sludge stood Beck Marcellus, a fallen trainee knight. But the current him did not have any mutation characteristics. His consciousness was still a normal person. In Beck's hand was the weird magic book tightly. At the same time, Beck also felt that a foreign object had entered and immediately turned his head. For a moment, he was so scared that he kept retreating. You are that lord? No, that lord is dead. The news of death can't be fake. You are an imposter. You must be an imposter. Your blasphemy is unforgivable. Listening to Beck's frightened remarks, Han Dong realized that he should now have the original appearance of a faceless. Even strange tentacles grew around his head, and he looked very similar to a leader of a higher life outside the city wall. The more Beck spoke, the more agitated he became. He no longer retreated, but approached Han Dong with a fierce face. Impersonating the Supreme King, you must die. It had to be said that this middle-aged man was a bit scary when he was fierce. Looking at his posture, it seemed that he wanted to strangle Han Dong directly. But in such a space of consciousness, Beck was just an ordinary person's ideology. On the other hand, Han Dong, only the sound of flesh proliferation could be heard. His right arm suddenly enlarged and thickened, and the sharp claws were exposed. Under the body of consciousness, Han Dong could still show the ghoul arm because in essence, this arm was originally a part of Han Dong. And this fallen Beck had not yet completely completed the ritual. It was just a simple physical depravity, and his consciousness was still the same as before. The situation was reversed. Relying only on one arm, Beck was completely suppressed. No matter how the fallen cursed, Han Dong only had one purpose. This time, he went deep into the underground space alone and took a huge risk to participate in this high-level battle. His purpose was only for the magic book. With a move of his thumb, the sharp claws easily cut off Beck's right hand that was tightly holding the magic book. When he saw the magic book fall into Han Dong's hands, Beck, who was pressed to the ground, began to scream and struggle crazily, even ignoring the fact that his body would be cut by the claws during the struggle. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. This is the key to me becoming a king. You despicable impostor, hateful thief, blasphemer of the gods, give me back my things. It's really sad that a human has become a slave to a book. After Han Dong said this, there was no mercy in his eyes. For this kind of devil who refined a family of 5 and sacrificed more than 200 civilians, killing him 1,000 times wouldn't be enough. The power of the ghoul's arm exploded, and the sharp claws tore down. Beck's consciousness was completely shattered. For a time, this space made of black sludge collapsed and disintegrated. The vision switched to reality, the underground cave. At this moment, Han Dong had already extended his entire right arm into the giant eyeball and forcefully dragged out the magic book that was the core. When he pulled out the book that was full of tentacles and nerve lines, the giant eye on his back immediately began to shrink. Beck the Fallen let out a scream. His body could no longer maintain his human form, and the tentacles all over his body began to disintegrate uncontrollably. An opportunity. Naturally, Celeste wouldn't miss such a great opportunity. She converted most of the energy in her skull into holy flames and gathered it on the flail. Punishment chain strike. When the flail smashed down, it was like a giant hammer falling. Beck the Fallen, whose body was unbalanced and whose tentacles were in a mess, had lost all of his defense. Crackle. He was directly smashed into meat paste by this hammer. Han Dong, who had secretly put the book into his backpack, took out a metal syringe the moment Beck was crushed and extracted the cell essence of Beck the Fallen. At the same time, he also took the seriously injured Miss Chun Li back to the prison. Chapter 82. In the secret passage of the Becker mansion, Cass and the others were walking down quickly. They could already faintly hear the sounds of intense fighting coming from the depths. It's already been more than an hour. The battle is still going on. Is the target that strong? Celeste, who was given the title of Retribution Knight, was in the upper zone of normal knights. An enemy that could make her fall into a difficult battle, even if it was a normal creature outside the city walls. The target must be extraordinary. Once we discover that Knight Celeste is at a disadvantage and that we can't help, immediately think of a way to contact the knights outside. Okay, Sophia, who was in the same team, was extremely nervous. She prayed silently, hoping that her sister would be safe. Celeste was a true knight, and she was much stronger than them in all aspects. The seed in her head had already sprouted and grown into a unique talent tree. If even Celeste couldn't deal with it, they couldn't imagine how strong the enemy was. The sounds of the battle disappeared. Just as the three of them reached the bottom of the cave, the sounds of the battle stopped abruptly. The sudden silence made Cass extremely nervous. The inner layer of his armor was already covered in cold sweat. The battle was over, but the result was unknown. If Celeste was defeated, once the three of them reached the bottom of the cave, they would die without a burial place. Sophia, Coslin, follow behind me. Once you discover the existence of evil beings, immediately escape from here. The three of them slowly reached the hidden stone pillar where they could see this sacrificial array. The scene in front of them made them tremble. The huge rock in Cass' heart was finally put down. Disgusting tentacles scattered in all directions. Black sludge overflowing on the ground. A male head crushed by a heavy hammer. The fallen Becker had been killed. Celeste's body was exhausted. She was supported by a light shield and kneeling on one knee. The divine energy of retribution stored in her head was almost completely used up in this battle. She would need at least 10 days or even longer to rest. Han Dong pretended to be extremely uncomfortable. He sat in the mud with a dull look in his eyes. "Sister," Sophia shouted in worry, "don't come over for now. Although the target is dead, the contaminants have not been completely removed. The three of you quickly go up and inform the church to clean up the contamination. Tell them that the contamination that needs to be cleaned up comes from creatures outside the city. Tell them to bring enough tools. It really is a creature from outside the city." Just as Cass was about to leave, he looked at Han Dong worriedly and asked, "Do we need to bring Andua's friend back to the church for purification?" Celeste replied, "No. Hurry and call for help. Leave this mysterious acolyte to me." "All right." Since Celeste had said so, Kars could only listen to Soon's orders and immediately return with his teammates. Cass's eyes were filled with doubt as he walked up the secret staircase. Why would Andua's friend appear in the center of the battle with the creatures outside the city? Moreover, judging from the contaminants on his body, he seems to have participated in the battle with the creatures outside the city. Beside him, Faye immediately put forward her own opinion. Impossible. This is a creature from outside the city. A novice knight would be doomed eternally just by looking at it from a distance. How could he fight it head-on? Andua should have rushed to the scene at the end of the battle. Sister deliberately left him behind to purify the contamination in his body, otherwise it would have been too late. Cass did not comment. He had always thought that Han Dong was different from the others. Perhaps he had really helped Celeste to fight against the creatures outside the city. Anyway, let's report the situation to the church first. It's fine as long as Andua's friend is fine. Underground area. Celeste, who was gradually recovering her strength, looked at Han Dong, who was covered in mud and even had 2 broken tentacles on his head. "Your level is higher than this creature outside the city. I can consider keeping things about you a secret. However, to ensure the safety of the holy city, I have to bring you to the mysterious academy to listen to Mr. Black and White's opinion. If the Crow Prophet knows about your situation and verbally believes that you are harmless, I will naturally bury this matter in my heart forever." Celeste was not good at expressing gratitude. If Han Dong had not done all this incident would have ended with her death. However, gratitude was gratitude. The reason why knights existed was to protect the safety of the holy city and fight for the freedom of all humans. Although Han Dong's current performance was harmless, it could not be concluded that he was harmless to the entire holy city. Therefore, as a knight, Celeste had to confirm this. "Sure, just say it here." Han Dong opened the mysterious scroll that Mr. Black and White had given him earlier. Dozens of crows immediately flew out from the scroll and circled at a low altitude. They used their black beaks to peck at the filthy tentacles on the ground. In a short period of time, all the contaminants were eaten clean. Then, the crows gathered in the center and turned into a mysterious man wearing a black mask, a black suit, and a black walking stick. The Crow Prophet. Celeste quickly lowered her head. "Yes, I was prepared to directly tamper with and hide your memories. Since you are willing to keep it a secret, it is naturally the best. After all, erased memories can be recovered through special means. It is not absolutely safe." Celeste nodded in confirmation. "As long as the Crow Prophet agrees, then there is no problem. I will keep this matter a secret. The matter of killing the creatures outside the city will all be attributed to me. It will have nothing to do with him. Okay, by the way, does the Great Plague Leader know about this?" "Captain, you don't have to worry about this kind of thing. I will take care of this student's matter." The conversation ended. Mr. Black and White once again turned into a crow, returned to the scroll, and disappeared into thin air. At this time, footsteps could be heard from the corridor. The church's personnel were about to arrive. Celeste immediately got up and used holy light to purify the filthy residue on Han Dong's body. Then, she took the initiative to help Han Dong up from the ground. "Kid, give me your contact information." "Oh, okay." This was the first time in Han Dong's life that a member of the opposite sex asked for his contact information. "Also, thank you." Every time she said such words of gratitude, Celeste would blush. This had something to do with her self-esteem. Celeste quickly returned to her original arrogant appearance. "Okay, when the church's personnel arrive at the cave later, you don't have to say anything. I will take you directly back to the academy to prevent you from being exposed when they take you to the church for baptism." "Thank you." Just like that. With Celeste's help, Han Dong left the mansion and boarded the train back to the academy. The London Street ghost incident came to a perfect end. Chapter 83. The matter came to an end. When the members of the church arrived, Celeste's attitude was very firm. She held on to Han Dong's wrist the whole time, forbidding any member of the church from touching him, and requested to personally bring Han Dong back to the school for baptism. In addition, there was the matter of the reward for the bounty mission. Cass was prepared to wait until Han Dong was fully baptized and relieved of pressure before the four of them gathered together to receive the reward. After leaving, Han Dong privately wrote a message to Cass, telling him to go directly to receive the reward and then split the coins. He also mentioned that if this mission's evaluation was excellent, they could choose a destiny item. Han Dong was willing to give up this opportunity and give it to Cass or Coslin, who didn't have a destiny item yet, to greatly increase their survival rate in the next destiny realm. Cass replied many times. Han Dong, on the other hand, refused and insisted that Cass choose an item that was suitable for him. In the end, Cass compromised. He was prepared to wait until Han Dong recovered before thanking him in person and preparing for the destiny realm. There were many reasons why he deliberately gave up on the destiny item. Since Han Dong decided to team up with Cass and the others for a long time, and he already had a destiny item, it was best to give it to his teammates. In addition, Han Dong didn't have time to go to the Adventurers Guild to submit the mission, check, review, and the subsequent reward and item selection. Time was limited. Han Dong had to use the remaining week to familiarize himself with the plague and learn about summoning from Mr. Black and White, so that he could explain Chun-Li's existence. In addition, Han Dong was the biggest winner of this incident. The value of the items he obtained was far higher than a premium destiny item by several times, or even dozens of times. Portable prison. "Miss Chun-Li, are you all right?" Because he was worried about Chun-Li's situation, Han Dong returned to the prison whenever he had time. To be able to successfully carry out the magic book stealing plan, Chun-Li risked her life. Even a second of delay could cause her to fall into the abyss. What was unexpected was, the heavily injured Chun-Li didn't need any other treatment. Chun-Li, who was in the cell, was in a state of tentacle connection. His entire body was connected by tentacles extending from the wall. The most important tentacle was connected to the back of his head. These tentacles seemed to be providing treatment to Chun-Li, the host. Furthermore, it was an extremely efficient treatment. The punctures on her shoulders had completely healed, and not even a scar remained. Sensing the arrival of her master, Chun-Li slowly opened her eyes. "I'm fine. It's good that you're fine. Thank you so much this time." Han Dong was here to express his gratitude. In a situation where Chun-Li was unwilling to take the risk, it was Han Dong who gave a semi-coercive order to carry out the plan, causing Chun-Li to be seriously injured. "Let me rest for a while. My head still feels a little uncomfortable." From Chun-Li's cold and indifferent tone, he could tell that she was dissatisfied with this operation, but because of the master-servant relationship, she did not directly express it. "All right, rest well. If you need anything, just let me know." Han Dong turned and went to the sterile laboratory next door. An exquisite syringe was placed in the center of the room, and it was filled with the fallen cell essence. This was one of Han Dong's two major gains. Staring at the dirty cell essence in the syringe, Han Dong could not help but show an exaggerated smile. I don't know how much the essence of a creature outside the city can increase my weight, and it doesn't seem to be an ordinary creature outside the city. He walked to the clean workbench. He carefully pushed these precious essences into his own body cell cluster. All the cell essences have been injected. Weight limit increased by 30 points, fallen sample. Current individual weight limit, 1,22157. 30. Excitement was certain, but Han Dong always felt that it was not enough. A creature from outside the city that could defeat a knight only increased his HP by 30 points. I remember that if I want to upgrade the faceless head and expand the prison, I need to reserve at least 50 points, and there are still many parts of my body that need to be replaced. It seems that there is still a long way to go to increase the weight limit. Being able to increase 30 points is also very good. Once I get a high-quality limb, I can install it at any time. Han Dong exited the portable prison. Clang, clang, the sound of a moving train. Currently, Han Dong was in the bathroom of the steam train returning to school. When he returned to the independent sleeper compartment, in the room, Knight Celeste had already taken off her armor and was only wearing a tight-fitting white bra. She was leaning on the bed with her eyes closed. Her streamlined, perfect body, pure, white, flawless skin, wavy blonde hair, and almost perfect facial features were all exposed in front of Han Dong. When Han Dong saw this scene, he did not feel awe. Instead, he returned to his sleeper compartment with a normal expression. "What's your real name?" "I've just asked a friend to check, Alan Andwa." There is no trainee knight with this name in the mystery branch. "Warren Nicholas." "Freshman?" Celeste's sources of information were very fast. Originally, she thought that the two-star Han Dong had already studied in the Knight Academy for a year. Who knew that Han Dong had just entered the academy? This made Celeste even more interested. "You obtained 2 fate points from the newbie event. However, it's understandable. After all, you control the power of life outside the city." Han Dong could only laugh awkwardly. At this time, Han Dong's clockwork device rang. It was Celeste calling. "Remember my contact information. If you have any trouble in the future, but it's not enough to disturb Mr. Black and White, you can find me at any time." Celeste was very prideful. She felt that she owed Han Dong a favor from this incident and had to find a chance to repay it. "Thank you. All right, there's one more thing. Next week, you should be in the same group as my sister and go to the Destiny Realm, right?" "Yes. When necessary, you can fully display your strength. After the Destiny Realm ends, I'll be waiting for you at the exit. Don't worry about the team members leaking your secret. No matter what, you must protect Sophia well. If anything happens to her, I'll settle the score with you." Han Dong had an innocent expression. This should be Cass' responsibility. Why did it suddenly shift to him? Your sister doesn't seem to like me very much. I'll try my best. Whether Sophia is interested in you or not has nothing to do with me. I only care that Sophia can come out alive. However, I'm quite interested in you." This sentence sounded a little ambiguous. Chapter 84. He returned to school. Naturally, Han Dong did not need to undergo the holy cleansing and stress release. After parting ways with Knight Celeste, he immediately returned to the mysterious academy. This was because Mr. Black and White had asked Han Dong to look for him directly after he returned to school. He had something important to discuss with him. The stargazing room had been transformed into a medieval aristocratic room. On the sofa beside the fireplace sat an unfamiliar Mr. Black and White. Compared to the last time he saw Mr. Black and White wearing a black mask, he felt like a completely different person. The aura has changed. Han Dong carefully sat on the sofa opposite him, not daring to look at the white mask at all. Even if he glanced at it from the corner of his eye, he would feel uncomfortable, as if he had been completely seen through. An ethereal and distant voice came from under the mask. "You're really lucky to have obtained such a huge reward with just a 3-star mission with a strange situation. This sentence directly indicated that Mr. Black and White already knew about Han Dong's reward. "Sir, do you have any instructions? Take out the book." The words that sounded like an order made Han Dong's heart skip a beat. Han Dong naturally did not want to hand over the magic book that he had spent so much effort and risked his life to obtain in this mission. But if Mr. Black and White really wanted to take it by force, Han Dong would not be able to protect it. A book bound in real leather, with traces of black stitching and an eye in the center, was placed on the table. The moment the magic book came into contact with the table, something strange happened. An evil aura spread around the book. Immediately after, densely packed little eyes grew on the table and even spread out. If no action was taken, they might even spread to the entire room. The danger was self-evident. Han Dong was about to reach out and stop it. Snap! Mr. Black and White snapped his fingers in front of him. The ceiling immediately turned into a starry sky. As the stars flickered, the little eyes were strongly stimulated and closed on their own. The little eyes all retracted into the book and could no longer spread. Han Dong could not understand such a method at all. However, the starlight had no effect on the original eyeball on the book cover. It seemed that the eyeball used to make the book cover was not a pollutant, or it was of a very high level and was not restricted by the stars. Mr. Black and White didn't reach out to touch the book. About a week ago, when I was observing the stars, I fell into a short-term superficial dream state and inadvertently saw an eye sneaking into the holy city. I took it as an ominous sign and sent some of the Knights of Pestilence to investigate. Who would have thought that this eye would appear in such a manner? And after so many twists and turns, it ended up in your hands. Han Dong didn't know what the book was either. He only knew that it was related to the creatures outside the city. Beck Marcellus had only learned the first chapter of the book, and he hadn't even fully learned it, but he could easily control ordinary people and create all kinds of pollutants. They even used evil sacrificial methods to draw creatures from outside the city into their bodies. It was enough to reflect the high value of this book. Han Dong had planned to hide this matter and secretly read it himself. Since Mr. Black and White had seen through it in advance, there was no need to hide anything. He took the opportunity to ask about the nature of the book. "Sir, what is this book?" "The Book of the Dead. I part copy. It's not the original, but a high-quality copy made by a master. The material used for the cover alone is priceless. The stitching technique and the embedding of the eyeball have surpassed the highest level of the mystery branch. You can't imagine the value of this book." "The Book of Necromancy. A manuscript?" Han Dong repeated the words in his mind. The higher life forms outside the city are not only superior to us in terms of basic life forms. They're also no less intelligent than us. This book is the work of a master outside the city. However, such a work actually flowed into the abandoned sewer system of the holy city. A conspiracy? They're trying to use this book to disintegrate the holy city from the inside. Mr. Black and White nodded slightly. There's a certain possibility. This book is enough to make an ordinary knight its slave. If you hadn't intervened in this matter, even the talented knight, Celeste, would be controlled by this book after exhausting her stamina in battle. In less than a month, the upper noble circle and the holy knights would be in trouble. In fact, Han Dong had smelled the scent of a conspiracy in advance. The vile murder of the Baker family, the local public security bureau, the appearance of a trainee knight or a knight. All of this had a purpose. Fortunately, the ones who dealt with this incident were Han Dong, who was not afraid of pollution at all, and Celeste, who was the best among the ordinary knights. Otherwise, if things continued to deteriorate, it would be unimaginable. Han Dong asked, "I don't understand. Why did the knights ask us to help after knowing the seriousness of this incident? Why didn't they just send a large number of knights to clean up?" "Because I'm the one who reviewed this incident. When you submitted the evidence, I personally reviewed the incident. Considering your uniqueness, I deliberately let you continue the investigation as an assistant. Otherwise, if it was someone else who reviewed it, the situation would be the same as what you said. Mr. Black and White, you deliberately let me be involved in this incident?" "No. I deliberately let you come into contact with this book. If you were defeated in the end, I would appear directly from the scroll and deal with the fallen. However, you didn't disappoint me. As soon as he said this, Han Dong's heart trembled slightly. All of this was within Mr. Black and White's plan. For a moment, Mr. Black and White's figure was constantly magnified in his heart. Nicholas, yes, if I directly submit this book to the council, the following 3 situations will occur. Relevant policies will be introduced in the near future to strengthen the Holy City's defense in all aspects. Knights will even be stationed in various public security branches to further improve the Holy City's internal security. The Mystic Association, the Magus Association, and so on will investigate this book and trace its origin so that they can launch the next large-scale operation outside the city to destroy the book's author's nest. Some mystic scholars who specialize in this field can try to analyze this book to strengthen our understanding of the creatures outside the city. This is the benefit I'll bring to the country by handing in this book. If I hand this book to you, what benefit can you bring me? What benefit can you bring to the Holy City? Mr. Black and White's purpose in asking this question was obvious. If Han Dong's benefit was less than the above 3 points, Mr. Black and White would confiscate this book and hand it in. How should he answer? In fact, Han Dong already had an answer in his heart. I can read and learn everything in this book and fight for mankind. Han Dong's answer slightly surprised Mr. Black and White. It seemed that this answer was better than he had expected. An extremely rare smile appeared on his white mask. Crow, you were right. Okay, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going to rest. Black and White alternated. Han Dong could not see the face that flashed by during the changing of the masks. The aura changed. It returned to the Mr. Black and White that Han Dong was familiar with. Nicholas, since you're recognized by White, it means that I was right about you. Okay, take the book and leave. Pasha will continue to teach you the basics of plague science. I'll look forward to your performance in the realm of destiny in a week. I'll keep everything about this book a secret. You have to be careful. If it leaks to the higher-ups, I can't protect you. Thank you, Mr. Black and White. Chapter 85. The Stairs of Zeus, the highest peak of the Holy City. As the highest authority of the Holy City, the Parliament was set up at the highest peak. Its structure was based on the design of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Together with the enchantment, it made this place a true wonder of the world, the place of the King of Gods. Every decision of the Parliament would determine the future of mankind. All important matters related to the safety of the Holy City would be discussed here. In today's regular meeting, the intelligence officer talked about the London Street ghost incident completed by Cass and the others. The detailed mission execution process was handed to every member of the Parliament in the form of text. Just from the report alone, the importance of this matter compared to the Knight's investigation outside the city, killing a large number of creatures outside the city and obtaining the latest intelligence outside the city, did not have much to pay attention to. After all, the incident had been completely resolved. In the end, the target was completely killed by the Retribution Paladin Celeste. However, the Parliament members sitting here could be said to be the highest think tank of mankind in the Holy City. They could see many details that ordinary people could not see. Beck Marcellus, a human who can't even complete his night studies, how can he bear the life outside the city? More than 200 civilians were used as sacrifices to attract creatures outside the city, not to support his body. You need to continue investigating this matter. Yes. The intelligence officer nodded. Have you investigated the identities of the 4 trainee knights who carried out this bounty mission? In the face of such a conspiracy, coupled with the fact that the local public security bureau was secretly controlled and the truth was concealed, they were able to find clues in advance and report the abnormalities. They were also able to perfectly assist the knights in completing the mission. This shows that the overall level of these 4 people is very high. We can pay attention to and strengthen their training in the future. Their identities have been investigated. The identities of 3 of them have been investigated. Two of them were born into hereditary nobility. The other one is a direct student of the vice dean and chairman of the Machinery Association, Duncan, in the machinery department. The last person in the team used a fake name, Alan Anderson. This name was not found in the Knight Academy. He called himself a 2-star mystery apprentice. We have verified this matter with the mystery department. Mr. Black and White admitted that this student was a student he was training in secret. It is not convenient to reveal his name for the time being. Since he is Mr. Black and White's disciple, there is no problem. However, if there is any information about this mysterious student in the future, you will still have to report to us. All right. Another member continued to speak about the incident. Recently, the life forms outside the city walls have begun to invade us more frequently, and their methods are becoming more and more secretive. We need to strengthen the security of the second layer. I suggest that we expand the recruitment of apprentice knights. Even if the new recruits fail the entrance test or drop out, they can still be sent to the second floor of the Public Security Bureau. Their thoughts would be checked regularly to ensure that there wouldn't be any nasty situations like Beck Marcellus's. In this way, the comprehensive quality and ability of the public security personnel could be effectively improved and the occurrence of such incidents could be reduced. After recording it down, let's talk about the next event. Mystic type, Old Sewer. After completing the mission, Han Dong continued to focus on his studies. Since he was able to control the plague, Han Dong reduced the time he spent on the study of the plague. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he would head to the stargazing room to learn about summoning from Mr. Black and White. Mr. Black and White even specially allocated a special study room for Han Dong. Most of the time, Han Dong would read the relevant books alone in the room and self-study to understand the fundamental meaning of summoning. The learning time for summoning was about 4 hours. In the remaining time, Han Dong would go through the special study. He would read this invaluable Book of the Dead. I copy and try to understand and learn the evil knowledge in it. During the reading process, Han Dong would not be contaminated. However, his mind would be attracted by the strange words and the pictures attached to the side. After reading for a long time, he would fall into a state of being unable to extricate himself. Therefore, Han Dong would usually take a break after reading for 40 minutes. Once, because he was too engrossed in reading, he unknowingly removed the disguise on his head and turned into a faceless. If this was seen by others, it would be terrible. A week of learning happily passed just like that. Tomorrow at noon, they would enter the real Destiny realm in the form of a small team. Cass also called Han Dong in advance and asked him to gather at Center Street at 8:30 sharp tomorrow morning. Cass would distribute some necessary items to the team members and make preparations. That's all for tonight. I'll rest early. After closing the human skin book, Han Dong went straight back to the Old Sewer. Since the study ended early tonight, Ms. Pasha had not slept yet. She was currently drinking wine and cultivating fungi. Ms. Pasha, I'm going to sleep first. Don't rush. Come here. Before Han Dong could react, he was directly grabbed by a slender arm and dragged to the desk. Ms. Pasha, who was originally drunk, became serious at this time. Do you really want to follow a group of 3-star apprentice knights into the Destiny realm? Have you considered the difficulty? Yes. Pasha was silent for a while and took out a light, silver soft armor from the drawer. It seemed that she secretly prepared it for Han Dong. Your body is not suitable to wear armor. Even light armor is not suitable. This pure silver soft armor's total weight is not more than 5 kilograms. It can effectively resist the attacks of some evil creatures. Maybe it can save your life at a critical moment. Pasha always felt that it was not good to give things to a student for no reason. She immediately added, "It's not easy to recruit a student. I just don't want you to die like this. Quickly take it." "Thank you, Ms. Pasha. Okay, go to sleep. Remember to think about the fusion skill you just learned the day before yesterday. Don't forget it completely when you encounter danger." Okay, Han Dong was very clear that Ms. Pasha was very concerned about him. In these 2 weeks, not only did Pasha allocate a lot of energy to him, but she also taught Han Dong some unique abilities that could not be learned from books. Han Dong, who was lying on the small bed, did not feel nervous at all. Instead, he felt a little excited. I don't know which literature will be related to the Destiny event. The prison is about to be expanded. Maybe I can find a prison companion for Miss Chun-Li in the Destiny event. Recruit a new follower. This was the reason why Han Dong left more than 30 points of weight space. P.S. Volume 2 Night has officially ended. There are only 2 updates for today. Trailer. The 3rd volume is called Clown. This volume will be an important chapter that will determine the future career of the protagonist. In a real sense, the Destiny instance that requires exploration, investigation, and confrontation is about to open. What horror movie, game, or novel will be used as the background? Everyone can make bold guesses in the comment section of the Chidian reading app. The person who guesses correctly and has the highest number of likes will come to me to receive the award. Chapter 86. Early to bed and early to rise. He put on the ultra-thin, pure silver soft armor that Teacher Pasha made for him over the white shirt and put on the bird-beak doctor outfit. He left the Dark Moon building just after 7 o'clock in the morning. There was still an hour and a half left before the meeting time with Cass and the others. Han Dong planned to use this time to stroll around the central street alone. Han Dong was not a social animal. He cooperated with Cass and the others only because the Destiny realm required them to go in a small team. On normal days, Han Dong preferred to act alone. He always felt that if he acted in a group, he had to consider some of the thoughts of others. There was a feeling of being restricted. I have more than 200 copper coins on me. Let's just stroll around. Just when Han Dong rode the zombie horse to the central street, the clockwork device on his wrist vibrated. Cass. The moment the connection was connected, a slightly irritable and arrogant female voice came out. Didn't I tell you to contact me at any time? Why haven't you contacted me when the Destiny realm is about to open? I hate owing people favors the most. Han Dong was surprised. He had never expected that this noble female knight would take the initiative to contact him. In fact, Han Dong remembered this relationship. He was prepared to use it when there was trouble in the future. He didn't expect Celeste to be so anxious. I have been preparing for the Destiny realm recently. Where are you? Central Street. The connection was disconnected. In less than 2 minutes, Han Dong felt a strong aura approaching from behind. In Han Dong's mind, he imagined a beautiful scene in front of him. A blonde female knight riding on a handsome white horse and wearing exquisite slim armor. Unexpectedly, when Han Dong turned his head, he was shocked by the beautiful scene in front of him. There was no white horse, no armor, no flail, and no light shield. A white body-shaping woven robe with a brown leather belt. The belt made the upper part more prominent while contracting the waist and abdomen, revealing Celeste's almost perfect figure. The length of the woven white robe was just enough to cover her knees. Her calves were covered with black stockings and a pair of light brown leather boots. Celeste's lively and personable attire, coupled with her delicate facial features and wavy blonde hair, attracted the attention of many people along the way. Sir Knight. Han Dong hurriedly lowered his head and greeted him respectfully. My full name is Wino Celeste. Normally, you can just call me Wino. Wino Celeste walked forward and held Han Dong's hand. Han Dong, who was thin and short, was being held like an elder sister holding her younger brother's hand. He had no initiative at all. This was a reason why Han Dong hated to move with others. This should be your first time entering the Destiny realm as an apprentice knight, right? Since I owe you a favor, I'll use material to repay it. While I'm at it, I'll also tell you about the things you need to pay attention to in the Destiny realm. All right. Han Dong had a helpless expression on his face. There was no such thing as taking the initiative to repay a favor when the other party did not need it. Han Dong was held by her hand just like that. They walked all the way to the largest trading market in the central street. Under Wino Celeste's guidance, they walked past the normal stalls and headed towards the building in the center, the trading center. There's no need to look at the stalls outside. The favor of saving my life is enough to exchange for a weapon of destiny. I have a weapon. During the previous incident with the ghost spirit, Han Dong did not reveal the plague short sword in front of Wino. Knight Wino was shocked. Don't tell me that other than receiving 2 destiny points from the newbie incident, you also received a weapon of destiny? It should be Mr. Black and White who gave it to you, right? I really did get it from the newbie incident. When I was escaping from the evil spirit, I coincidentally encountered a hidden incident. Wino Celeste stared at Han Dong with her eyes wide open. She had never heard of anyone who could obtain such a huge reward from the newbie incident. After all, the newbie incident was completely different from the subsequent Destiny incident. During the newbie period, the individual did not have any ability to resist. Even the time and opportunity to escape was obtained from the hands of the Grim Reaper, not to mention having more time to deal with the hidden incident. After a moment of silence, Wino asked, "Then do you have anything you want? Is there any equipment that can increase movement speed?" After a few days of learning and training, Han Dong had prepared many kinds of attack methods and evil moves. And when fighting against enemies, he had Chun-Li's help. The only thing lacking was the limitation of this body. The most limiting thing was the speed of movement. Compared to the novice knights of the same level, everyone ran faster than Han Dong. Once they encountered a danger that they could not fight head-on, such as a zombie horde, the ability to escape became extra important. During this period, Han Dong also thought of using a limb replacement to increase his movement speed, but he immediately rejected the idea. Han Dong had 35 free weight points. If he wanted to increase his movement speed, he would have to replace 2 legs. Just a ghoul's arm alone required 22 points of weight points. 35 points were not enough. Secondly, Han Dong had other plans for the extra weight points. He did not want to simply replace 2 ordinary legs. Movement speed, not a bad idea. Your physical fitness is indeed not good. Come with me, I will buy you a pair of shoes. When they entered the trading center, Wino Celeste directly showed the knight's token. When the attendant saw the picture of a white horse head and 2 crossed swords, he was in awe. "Honorable Sir Knight, how can I help you? Show me the record book of equipment that can increase movement speed." "Okay, this way please." The trading center had carefully categorized all the items and equipment on the shelves, allowing the buyers to choose the items they wanted to buy based on their own needs. It was convenient and fast. The attendant led the 2 of them to a private room and presented them with a record book. The record book detailed the equipment that could increase movement speed, not just the footwear. After the attendant left, Wino pressed down on the record book with one hand and said seriously, "A 2-star novice knight can at most use part of the good fate equipment effect. Don't choose a high-quality equipment that you can't use." Wino immediately added, "It's not that I don't have money, I just don't want you to waste things." Got it. It was also the first time Han Dong came to such a trading center. He was very interested in the dazzling array of equipment. When he opened the record book, Han Dong was immediately attracted by the extremely detailed description of the equipment. The record book had a real picture of the goods, different colors to indicate the quality of the equipment, and at the bottom of each equipment was a detailed description. Chapter 87. Let me explain the classification of the Destiny equipment. According to humanity's current understanding of the Destiny realm and the equipment and items brought out from it, the Destiny equipment were divided into 5 grades based on their quality and the abilities they gave. White, normal equipment provides attack power and defense power similar to normal equipment, and provides an active skill. Green, superior equipment increases attack, or attribute attack, increases defense or resistance, provides an active or passive skill. Blue, superior equipment provides 2 active or passive skills on top of the green equipment, or more basic skills. Purple, epic equipment greatly increases basic attack or defense, or directly changes the user's attack pattern. For example, a normal sword attack may cause an additional attack or damage the user's soul. Provides an exclusive skill, Exclusive skill is related to the source of the epic destiny equipment. Its effect is much stronger than the active skills provided by equipment of superior quality and below. Orange legendary equipment. Missing data. Compared to the body classification that Han Dong could use, the Holy City's classification of the destiny equipment was slightly simplified. There were only 5 grades. Body classification from lowest to highest is as follows: gray rough, white, normal, green, superior, blue, rare, purple, unique, pink, epic, gold, legendary, dark gold, empire. The above is not included in the number of words in this chapter. Looking through the equipment. Han Dong would not purposely trick this night wino. After all, their relationship would still be useful in the future. According to Wino's request, he did not look at the equipment above superior quality. Moreover, Han Dong purposely glanced at the superior quality equipment that was labeled with blue words. Its value was as high as 4 digits, and the number at the beginning was not small. Han Dong skipped over the normal equipment section that took up a lot of space and looked at the superior equipment section that was green. After quickly looking through all the green equipment, Han Dong picked out a total of 3 pieces of equipment that were most suitable for him. Destiny equipment. Feng Hunt's artificial leg type. Embedded or mounted leg equipment quality. Superior basic attribute. Slightly increases the defense and movement speed of the leg. Special effect. By consuming the energy of the seed, the user can release the active skill, Haste, which increases movement speed by 100% for 5 seconds. After the effect ends, the host will enter a state of fatigue, and all speed will be reduced by 30% for 10 seconds. Origin. A relic left behind by ancient Rome's beast fighter Von Hunt. After his right leg was bitten off by a beast, he used it as a replacement for a special prosthetic leg to help him achieve the longest survivor achievement in the Colosseum. Poor Hunter. In the end, he was still bitten to death by a wild beast. Only this artificial leg was left. Fate equipment. Young Griffin leather boots. Type. Footwear quality. Excellent basic attribute. Slightly increases movement speed. Special effect. Griffin's halo of scenery. The holder can activate or deactivate the halo effect. When the halo is activated, this energy will continue to be consumed. The effect of increasing movement speed will be doubled, and stamina consumption will be reduced when moving. Or a type effect. It consumes very little energy. Based on the energy stored in the seed of a 3-star novice knight, the halo effect can be activated continuously for 5 hours. Source. Material. Griffin feather. Comes from the young of the griffin, with the body and claws of a lion, the head and wings of an eagle, in ancient Akkad mythology. This kind of magic feather was perfectly combined with the excellent leather material by a high-level leathersmith to create this magic shoe. Fate equipment. Blood essence stone bracelet type. Jewelry quality. Excellent basic attribute. Slightly increases the maximum health of the individual. Can be understood as increasing the total amount of blood. Special effect. Blood activation. The individual can activate the active skill by consuming the seed's energy to accelerate the blood flow of the whole body and accelerate the metabolism. All speed increases by 15% for 7 seconds. Activating blood activation. Once will consume a moderate amount of energy. Activating blood activation too many times will cause the individual to fall into a weakened state. The individual's speed will be reduced by 40%, and the individual will need more than half an hour to recover. Feng Hunter's artificial leg price, 900 copper coins. Young Griffin leather boots, price, 1,200 copper coins. Blood essence stone bracelet, price, 1,050 copper coins. In fact, among the 3 items, Han Dong was very optimistic about the cheapest one. The haste ability it gave was very interesting. The moment between life and death was just a few seconds. Once he could burst out with super fast movement speed and escape to a safe area, it would not matter even if he entered the fatigue state that lasted for 10 seconds. Moreover, Han Dong could remove his leg at will to install this artificial leg. The problem was that this artificial leg was only a single item. Han Dong was a little worried that he would not be able to adapt and maintain his balance in the early stages of the game. The Destiny realm was about to open, so there was no time to familiarize himself with the artificial leg. As for the bracelet, Han Dong had also thought about it for a long time. This equipment could increase the speed by activating the blood. Not only the movement speed, but also the attack speed and reaction speed. This could be an unexpected help to Han Dong in some crucial battles. The disadvantages were also very obvious. Each use would consume a moderate amount of energy from a seed. Multiple uses would also cause the user to fall into a weakened state for half an hour. This was very fatal in the Destiny realm where time was limited. Of course, it would be fine if he controlled it a little. In the end, Han Dong made the best choice. Night Wino, I will choose this item. Wino's face twitched slightly as she stared at the price of 1,200 copper coins under the boots. She was born a noble, but her arrogant personality made her not ask for a single cent from her family since the day she became an official knight. She relied entirely on the basic salary distributed by the knights every month and the missions she took to earn copper coins. For a normal knight like her, 1,200 copper coins was a lot of money. You really know how to choose. You can even choose the most expensive green quality equipment. Han Dong could only laugh awkwardly. After paying 1,200 copper coins through the treasury function of the clockwork device, the item was sent to the private room. Brown leather boots. It was not the exaggerated design that he imagined that the griffin's feathers would be stuck to the sides of the shoes. Instead, it was a combination of the griffin's feathers and the leather through some kind of leather-making technology. When Han Dong tried on the shoes, the leather contracted and automatically adapted to the size of the soles of his feet. At the same time, there was a silver feather mark on the outside of the boots, giving Han Dong a feeling of being as light as a swallow. The feeling was far beyond the description of a small increase in movement speed. Han Dong tried to activate the griffin's ring of scenery. The energy in his head was draining very slowly, so it could be used for a long time. I made the right choice. Han Dong was very satisfied with his choice this time. Wino Celeste looked at Han Dong's shoes, her heart bleeding, but she had to pretend that nothing was wrong. Thank you, Knight Wino. The favor is considered repaid. Remember, if anything happens to Sister Sophia in the Destiny space, I will be the first to settle the score with you. Got it. Han Dong could see that Wino was very unhappy because of the price of the shoes. The shopping ended. The two of them naturally left the trading center together. Friend Andwa, you are here too. Just as they reached the first floor, a familiar young man's voice was heard. It was Cass and his group. They used the bounty from the previous ghost incident to buy some necessary supplies and items at the trading center. Celeste didn't turn her head, and with her ordinary attire, Cass didn't recognize her for a moment. So he asked bluntly, "Is this your girlfriend?" After all, it was very easy for a top student in mysticism like Han Dong to find a high-quality girlfriend. Sophia, who was at the side, was stunned on the spot, speechless for a moment. Chapter 88. Girlfriend. When Cass said this word, Wino Celeste's body trembled. Sister. Sophia immediately pointed out the girl's true identity. Otherwise, if Cass continued to misunderstand, it would really cause trouble. Cass immediately realized that he had made a low-level mistake. Of course, who would have thought that this noble knight would appear here? Moreover, she was walking together with Han Dong, a 2-star novice knight, and the two of them were very close to each other. Knight Celeste, please forgive my rudeness. Cass quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake. It's okay, I just happened to meet him on the way. I saw him wandering around here as if he didn't know anything. Considering that we had worked together not long ago, as his senior, I introduced him to the trading rules of the trading center. Who knew that this kid was quite rich and bought a pair of shoes worth 1,200 copper coins. Don't you think so? Yes, I happened to meet Vi, senior sister Celeste on the way. Other than answering yes, Han Dong could not say anything else. Celeste's palm landed on his shoulder. If Han Dong did not cooperate with her answer, his shoulder would most likely be crushed instantly. It would seriously affect the Fate realm. All right, since you guys have met, I don't need to continue bringing this rookie. Sophia, buy more energy recovery potions and pay attention to replenishing the seed's energy. Don't let it go below 30%. Okay, sister. Wino Celeste did not stay for a moment. She called her white horse and left alone. Just as the female knight's figure disappeared from his sight, slap. Cass's thick arms immediately wrapped around Han Dong's neck. Friend Anwa, how did you do it? This is the famous Retribution Knight, one of the most talented normal knights in the Holy Knights. Cass was not stupid. Even if Celeste said that she and Han Dong had met by chance, even if Han Dong had assisted her in carrying out a normal mission, she would not have to lead Han Dong, a 2-star novice knight, to tour and introduce the trading center. Moreover, when the two of them walked down the stairs, their bodies were very close to each other, and they even seemed a little intimate. It was also because of this that Cass mistook her for Han Dong's female companion. The ghost incident from last time. Didn't you go to the tree hole to exterminate the main body of the spirit? I had nothing to do outside, so I accidentally found another tunnel that led to the underground. After considering some things, I went down alone. Who knew that he would accidentally help Knight Wino? After that, it was probably about the ways of the world. I won't go into the details. If Wino hears this, I'm afraid she'll kill me. When Han Dong briefly explained the origin of the relationship between the two, Sophia, who was at the side, was still shocked. Yes, you know my name? Feiyu was very clear that if her sister took the initiative to tell Han Dong her full name, then the relationship between the two was really not simple. Han Dong laughed awkwardly. Ha! Senior Sister Wei Nuo just told me. Brother Alan, you're really something. You're really awesome. Cass only held Han Dong's neck and gave him a thumbs up with his other hand. His evaluation of Han Dong was already very high. What else could Han Dong do? He was also very desperate. He just wanted to familiarize himself with the Central Street in advance. Who knew that Celeste would take the initiative to contact him, take the initiative to hold his hand, and even take the initiative to buy him a pair of AJ? No, it was to buy Fate's shoes. He felt like he had accidentally hooked up with a rich woman. At this moment, the small Coslin walked over from the other side of the trading center. Captain, all the items we need have been submitted to the staff. They will be shipping them out soon. Should we wait here or find a quiet place? Let's go to a quiet place. After all, I want to use the secret key in the Fate realm this time. If the walls have ears, someone might have ideas about us. Okay. When Han Dong and Coslin met, they smiled at each other. The two of them were completely familiar with each other after the ghost incident last time. However, Coslin was a little different today. The outside of his right arm was equipped with a set of steam-driven, full-bone gauntlet. The steel frame, coupled with nearly 100 bearings and gear connection points, allowed this gauntlet to perfectly fit the various movements of the right arm. Turning, bending the elbow, or wrist seemed very natural. There was no feeling of metal obstruction. The miniature steam engine was integrated into the inside of the gauntlet and couldn't be seen at all. When Coslin carried out the relevant movements of his right arm, the steam engine could automatically or manually assist, increasing the basic attributes of his right arm in all aspects. Whether it was the speed of punching, the strength of carrying, or the accuracy of controlling firearms, they would all be improved. This was the creation of a mechanic. Han Dong couldn't help but think of his biological sister. Nina should also be thinking of creating such auxiliary equipment before entering the Fate realm, right? Indeed, this thing can greatly increase the chances of survival for ordinary people. The goods were ordered. There were still more than 3 hours before the Fate realm opened. Under the lead of Cass and the others, they came to a special bar on the Central Street. The private room was made of soundproof stone, and there were special attendants guarding outside the door. Under normal circumstances, no information would be leaked. As soon as they sat down, Cass immediately transferred the money to Han Dong through the clockwork mechanism. In the bottom of his heart, Cass had always felt guilty towards Han Dong. In the final evaluation of the ghost incident last time, Cass knew very well that killing the ghost guarding the mansion wasn't enough to get the highest evaluation. It was most likely related to Han Dong's actions underground. In the end, it was Cass himself who monopolized the huge reward of the fate item. Just as Cass was a little embarrassed and wanted to say something, Han Dong opened the topic first. Captain Cass, is the weapon of destiny you chose this shield? It seems to suit you very well. Congratulations. Han Dong's smile didn't have the slightest bit of discomfort. He was completely happy that Cass had obtained a suitable piece of destiny equipment for himself. Just this point alone made Cass completely agree and willing to be Han Dong's good friend for life. Their favorability greatly increased. In addition, because he had just come into contact with a series of equipment blueprints at the Trade Center, part of Han Dong's interest had also shifted to this kind of magical equipment of destiny. He had noticed Cass' new shield in advance. It was a kite-shaped, inverted triangle shield with a domineering lion head imprint on the surface. The whole thing gave off a heavy feeling and even faintly emitted a kind of aura of power. Chapter 89. Destiny Equipment. Lion's Shield Type. Shield Quality. Excellent Basic Attribute. Greatly Increased Defense. Only in the shield defense area. General Special Effect. Exclusive to shield's extreme block. Only limited to the instant of the enemy's powerful skills. If successful, the current attack will be completely offset and reflected. Equipment Special Effect. Lion's Power. Passively increase the host strength when the shield is equipped. The increase in strength will continue to increase with the number of times the enemy's attacks are blocked. At the end of the battle, or if the attack cannot be blocked within 10 seconds, the stacking of strength will be reduced to 0. Source: a power shield forged by the armorsmith and the magic seal master. It uses the best steel, and the magic seal master introduced the lion god seal into the shield during the tempering process. Good stuff. This should be an excellent plus equipment, right? Han Dong had just learned about the basic attributes of various equipment in the trading center. The attributes of this lion shield should be among the top of the green quality, very suitable for Cass who majored in Crusade. A pure strength shield. Actually, Cass's image was not like the kind of strong knight with big arms and a thick waist. If he took off his armor and took off his shirt, under Cass's handsome appearance, there was a nearly perfect mermaid line. With his height of more than 8 meters, he could be compared with those European and American male models. With this shield, my defense will be greatly improved, and I will even be able to fight against some creatures with large bodies. I will definitely protect Brother Allen and won't let you suffer any harm. The purpose of this sentence was to express Cass's gratitude to Han Dong. However, it sounded weird, and even Fea, who was standing at the side, was a little jealous. There is one more thing to explain to Brother Allen. This time, we're going to use a special item that allows us to choose the world of destiny. Cass took out the key that he mentioned before. It was not a key, but a golden card with the pattern of his scepter. Card of Destiny? Han Dong recognized it at a glance. Wasn't this the card of fate that appeared on the crystal table when he passed the newbie event? However, the card that Han Dong had drawn at that time corresponded to the Holy Grail picture. Then, it turned into a real Holy Grail and contained a liquid that could increase one's ability. This is the card we obtained in the last Destiny realm. I thought it would be a physical reward, but it turned out to be right. It allows us to choose one of 3 different fates. You can also check the introduction, type, difficulty, reward, and related requirements of the 3 events in advance. Good stuff. Han Dong's eyes lit up. At the very least, they would be able to choose a suitable fate event for their side. However, this thing can only be used when we enter the Destiny space. We can't make sufficient preparations in advance. That's enough. At least we can choose one of the 3. We'll think about it after we use it. Now, let's distribute the items. These necessary items and consumables came from the rewards from the Ghost incident and the collection from the Trading Center. If we distribute them evenly, we should be able to reach the maximum carrying limit. What was the carrying limit? Han Dong already knew about it from Teacher Pasha in the past few days of learning. Not everything could be brought into the Destiny space. The items that could be brought in were limited. 1. Prohibited from bringing in any destructive items, automatic detection. Even micro-explosives will be detected. 2. Prohibited from bringing in living creatures. Summons that are related to oneself are excluded. 3. The total weight of foreign objects cannot exceed 5 kilograms, and the total volume cannot exceed 0. 3 cubic meters. If the limit is exceeded, a certain amount of items will be erased and reduced to the limit. 4. Destiny items are not subject to the above restrictions. There is no need to worry about low-level apprentice knights wearing high-quality Destiny equipment because they will not be able to display the effects of high-quality equipment. This kind of restriction greatly reduced the possibility of opportunistic means. The items that Cass prepared for the team were as follows. 1. Everyone has 5 bottles of energy recovery potion. After drinking it, it can directly restore 30% of the seed's energy. The cooldown time is 5 minutes. If continuously drinking it will greatly reduce the recovery rate. 2. Night vision goggles. It is convenient to move at night. At the same time, it can reduce the effects of visual illusions and curses. 3. Everyone has a bottle of sleeping potion. After drinking a bottle cap, you will quickly fall into a deep sleep. This will ensure that in the Destiny space, you can fall asleep at any time and keep your mind awake. 4. 1 bottle of strong healing potion. It is an alchemy product. After injection, it can heal large wounds and internal injuries in a short period of time, unable to achieve the effect of regeneration of broken limbs. The first 3 items were bought from the market. As for the last alchemy item, it was obtained from the item reward after completing the Ghost event. This kind of potion was expensive. Moreover, before the opening of the Destiny space, it was basically priceless. This was also the reason why Cass chose to carry out a mission a week before the opening of the Destiny space. This kind of potion could greatly increase the survival rate of the team. It could drag everyone back from the gates of hell once. There are so many things. Everyone should prepare well. Due to the carrying limit, Cass's silver armor and silver sword could not be brought in. At that time, they could only think of a way to go to the Destiny space to find a blacksmith or find suitable materials to make them themselves. Brother Allen, our team does not have any special rules. Although I am the team leader, I will not force you to do anything. If there is a place that needs to be explored alone, the most suitable person will be chosen according to the situation at that time. There is no coercion. In the past, our team's think tank was Koslin, but now you are one more. When the time comes, you two should discuss and come up with ideas. Yes, Han Dong liked this kind of free and harmonious team atmosphere. This was also the main reason why he looked for Cass. After discussing some details in the remaining time, the team of 4 set out and rushed to the Bell Tower of Destiny, an hour in advance. That's right, as a trainee knight, the way they entered the Destiny space was completely different from the way ordinary people entered. It was no longer a group of people gathered in the ceremony square. It was as if they had sunk into mud. They entered the Destiny space, which was completely random. Instead, they went through the Real Gate of Destiny. In this world, when higher life forms appeared, the teleportation gates that appeared in the capitals of various countries were the hope for humanity to continue living. The original teleportation gate of Italy's capital, Rome. The subsequent holy city was also built around the teleportation gate. The main building that existed in the 3rd floor, Bell Tower of Destiny. It was from the stairs of the sun god Apollo. When they arrived half an hour in advance, there were already a large number of apprentice knights gathered at the bottom of the copper giant clock tower. Although there were many people, the atmosphere was somewhat gloomy. Chapter 90. Whether or not to enter the Destiny space was not subjective. Who to arrange, how many people, and when to enter the Destiny space were all decided by the Council. It was the optimal human strengthening plan that was formulated after 100 years of experience. For the students of the National Royal Knight Academy, they were required to select a group of students to enter the Destiny space every 2 months. The 5 major departments of the Academy had corresponding quotas. When the time was up, they had to provide a list of apprentice knights. Otherwise, the department's fixed funds would be reduced and some rights would be taken away. Of course, randomly arranging students was also not allowed. The survival rate of the apprentice knights and their performance in the Destiny space were also the basic indicators used for evaluation. Currently, there were a total of 8 teams gathered in front of the Bell Tower of Destiny. The minimum was 2 and the maximum was 6. The number of people in a team would not affect the difficulty of the Destiny event. Even if there were 100 people in the team, it would create a Destiny world suitable for 100 people. The overall difficulty would not change. They were about to face the real terror. The apprentice knights gathered here. Even if they knew each other, they did not have time to greet each other. This bell tower is very strange. Just standing outside, Han Dong could already hear countless small gears turning. Looking at the bell tower for a long time even made him feel dizzy. At the bottom of the bell tower, a vertical tube-style bronze door. Zzz. The sound of steam. With the release of large amounts of steam, the bronze pillars rose up in an orderly manner, revealing a red metal passage inside the bell tower. A weirdly dressed clock tower staff member walked out. He wore a strange whirlpool mask and a hard white robe with a collar that went over his head. The robe covered his legs, only revealing his feet that were wearing black crystal boots. His voice directly echoed in the minds of every team. Please enter the Bell Tower of Destiny in groups. Your belongings will be checked. After the check, my shadow will lead you to different gears and wait to enter the Destiny space. The Bell Tower corresponded to a tedious inspection passage. Not only would they check their belongings, but they would also check their identities to ensure that they were the same as the students reported by the department. When passing through the red inspection passage, they could clearly hear the sound of gears turning inside the bell tower. It could be seen that the mechanical workmanship inside the bell tower was very complicated. Only a few people knew the function of these gears. The bell tower's purpose was not only to operate the clock, but also to protect the hope of mankind, Gate of Destiny. The examination was completed. Cass and his team arrived at a square room made of transparent glass. Thousands and tens of thousands of overlapping spatial gear structures could be seen all around. It was as if every room in the clock tower was under the control of these gears. Han Dong tried his best to suppress the shock in his heart. Such a mechanical building did not exist in his previous world. Cass explained to Han Dong, the Destiny Clock Tower is the perfect product of the Holy City's most advanced technology. It is the safest building in the Holy City. Without the clockmaker to lead the way, we would be lost in the clock tower and would never be able to leave. The location of each room in the clock tower was determined by different gears, and minute changes were taking place every second. Even though I've been here twice, I still find this place incredible. The clock. Obviously, he was referring to the guy dressed in strange clothes. Before long, the glass room Cass and the others were in began to move as the gears turned. When the room came to a complete stop, a door appeared out of thin air on one side of the glass room. Behind the door corresponded to an endless dark space. Flames could not spread out here. In the darkness, only the Gate of Destiny in the center could be seen. Quoting the book's original description here, it has a golden edge and an elliptical structure like the stars in the night sky. It is like a starry gate with multiple dimensions intertwined within. Is this the real Gate of Destiny? When Han Dong stared at this starry gate, he had a feeling that his consciousness was about to be sucked in. It was not an illusion. Staring at it for a long time would cause one's consciousness to leave the body. As for the way for newbies to enter the space of destiny, it is through a giant magic array that connects the ceremony square with the Gate of Destiny. It can allow thousands of participants to enter at the same time, saving a lot of time and making it easy to manage. After all, ordinary civilians are not qualified and have no need to enter the Destiny Clock Tower. You're the first team in this month's journey of destiny. Good luck. The clockmaker made a polite gesture of invitation. The four of them who were already prepared did not hesitate. With Cass as the leader, they stepped into the gate of destiny. The moment they were sucked in, the cards of destiny imprinted with the scepter's mark disintegrated automatically. Option activated. After experiencing a short tremor of consciousness, they came to a place with a strange style. For Cass and the others, the style was very strange. But for Han Dong, this place was very familiar. Isn't this the video store in my original world? It was the most popular store in the era of VCD and DVD. However, due to the rapid arrival of the internet era, this kind of store that mainly sold discs immediately declined. It rose quickly and fell quickly, only existing in the memories of some people. Han Dong did not expect that the place of the Gate of Destiny event in advance will be an 80s-style video store. The books, discs, and game discs on the shelves were all in a state of chaos. When Han Dong and the others wanted to look at them closely, the words and the cover would become distorted and blurred. Only the 3 products on the cashier could be seen normally. Obviously, these 3 products corresponded to 3 different frameworks of the world of Destiny. A book, a movie disc, a game collector's box. Sure enough, they're all based on the literary products of my previous world. If I had known earlier, I would have spent more time on these things. The familiar Destiny space prompts sounded. Please make your choice within 15 minutes. Once the time limit is exceeded, a random world of Destiny will be generated. The prompt ended. The 3 literary products on the cashier's counter all had a pop-up window filled with basic information, making it convenient for the team to understand the details and make their choice. Book, Goosebumps series, Ancient Tomb Poison Curse movie, The Clown's Resurrection game, Murderous Night. If there are PC players among the readers, Fatty strongly recommended this game. Although the era is a bit old, the plot is absolutely awesome. It combines elements of horror, school, mutation, mystery, and so on. Chapter 91. Goosebumps series, Ancient Tomb Poison Curse. Introduction. A broken coffin, scattered bones. His cousin Sally was just a few steps ahead of him, but in less than a minute, she disappeared without a trace. To make matters worse, Gable had a feeling that someone was following him. With the dim light, Gable noticed that the mummy beside him blinked, and a hand wrapped in a shroud reached out from behind. Brave ones open it, timid one step away. Type, Evil Curse, Ancient Tomb, Maze Event Difficulty, Seed Stage, 2.5 stars. Main Quest, explore the mysterious pyramid and uncover the hidden secrets inside. The time limit is 3 days. At the end of the time limit, 4 different rewards will be given according to the exploration level of the team. Terrible performance. Fate points 1. Looks good. Fate points 1. Low probability of obtaining card of Fate, Seed Stage. Not bad. Fate points 1. Medium probability of obtaining card of Fate, Seed Stage. Maximum allowed to bring 1 Ancient Tomb Relic. You're awesome. Fate points 2. Medium probability of obtaining card of Fate, Seed Stage. Maximum allowed to bring 2 Ancient Tomb Relic. Return of the Clown, Part 1. Introduction, Draytown, Maine, USA. This is a town formed by lumberjacks during the American pioneering period. It is rural and peaceful. The only exception is that the number of missing children and deaths in this town is 6 times higher than the average in America. Until one day, a red-haired, white-clothed clown often appeared in front of everyone. The clown can appear anywhere and at any time to drag people into the endless abyss. Type, Strange Difficulty, Seed Stage, Main Quest. You will be placed in Draytown as a child. Through the clues that appear in Draytown, you will find Pennywise the Clown and eliminate him. Basic reward. Fate points 1. Medium probability of obtaining card of Fate, Seed Stage. Note, there are many side events and hidden events in Draytown. Completing them will give you additional rewards. Special reward. Unlocked, Return of the Clown, Part 2. After reaching the level of Night, Talent Tree, You can enter this special world randomly or directionally. Note 1. Once an individual fails to complete the Return of the Clown, outer chapter, during the seed stage, he will never be able to start the Return of the Clown, inner chapter, event. 2. After completing the chain of events, the Destiny Realm will give out an extremely rare reward. Dark Knight Murder Intent Obscure Introduction. The game takes place in an American high school called Livermore. This school has a history of more than 100 years. The buildings are beginning to decay, and the books in the library are covered in a thick layer of dust. The principal, who is more than 100 years old, is still alive. Legend has it that there are many secrets behind him. On a rainy night, a high school student mysteriously disappeared. His 4 friends were preparing to search for his whereabouts in the dark school after class. Type: Biochemical Variant Difficulty, Seed Stage, 3.5 stars. Main Quest: the participants of Fate will take on the role of 4 high school students and explore the mysterious middle school. The settlement this time was based on a point system. Every time he killed a biochemical monster, he would receive a corresponding point. Every time he solved a clue in the school, he would also receive a point reward. Once you have accumulated more than 60 points, you can choose to leave the Destiny space. Reward: the participants can use their points to buy items from the Fate store. The extra points can be saved for the next use. Completely different. The 3 events were completely different from the newbie event that Han Dong experienced. None of the events were escape-type events. It was different from Bewitched, where the participants only needed to survive for 3 days. It was no wonder that many people emphasized to Han Dong that only novice knights could enter the real Destiny realm. They needed to take the initiative to explore the Destiny realm and face the terrifying creatures. Han Dong did not have any experience in the real Destiny realm. He did not make any comments on the choices that were to be made. Cass stared at the 3 choices. If he wanted to be safe, he would definitely choose the first event. The difficulty was the lowest, and there were different rewards. The better the performance of the party, the better the rewards. Even if they were to encounter an undefeatable danger, they could still hide in a corner and wait for the time limit to end. But even if they could survive this Destiny realm, it did not mean that they could survive the next one. Cass and the others were the top students in the academy. What they pursued was not only the most basic survival, but also the greatest benefits in the Destiny realm. A chain event, we really encountered it. Cass's eyes were immediately attracted by The Joker's Resurrection, Part 1. Cass had never experienced a 4-star difficulty before. The last Destiny event that his party encountered, Texas Chainsaw Murderer variant, had a difficulty of 3.5 stars. In the case of a party member dying, they completed the main storyline and escaped. The difficulty of 4 stars was obviously higher, but also corresponded to better rewards. Moreover, it was a very rare chain event. Death. In this kind of world, it could not be more normal. It was very difficult for the knights within the city walls to die a natural death. They would either die in the Destiny realm or outside the city walls. If they started to pursue safety when they were novice knights and chose the lowest difficulty events, they might be able to graduate and become an official knight if they were lucky. But one day, they would realize that their foundation was not solid enough, and they would hit a bottleneck and be unable to advance. A 4-star chain mission. What do you think? Sophia nodded reluctantly. Coslin was hesitant. The terrifying scenes from the previous 3.5-star event kept flashing through his mind. It was normal to have concerns. Future growth was built on the foundation of survival. If people died, what was there to talk about growth? Coslin considered it from all angles. It was a little difficult for him to deal with such a difficult event now, but he was unwilling to give up on a rare chain event. At this moment, Cass turned to look at Han Dong. Brother Alan, what do you think? I don't have much experience, so I don't really want to give my opinion. But The Joker's feels pretty good. P.S. Phew, it's finally going to be published. After 5 years of writing, it was the first time I was so tired. I wanted to avoid every small mistake, and I wanted to perfect every detail as much as possible. I wanted to write a book that could display my greatest strength. Tomorrow, 7. One will be published. The early morning phase will give everyone a surprise. I hope everyone can subscribe and support Fatty. I hope you can vote for Fatty in July. Fatty will also bring the most exciting plot to everyone. Chapter 92. System problem. Fatty waited all night. It's finally available. I'm about to cry. Participant's identity has been confirmed. Destiny. Seed stage. Using the movie The Joker Returns, Part 1, as the setting Dry Town has been created. Participant's age has been reduced, destiny equipment has been simplified, and relevant identities have been assigned. Note 1. There is no time limit for this event. Participants will only be allowed to leave after the final target. The Joker, Pennywise, has been eliminated. 2. This event has a region restriction. Participants are not allowed to leave Dry Town in any way. Ring, ring, ring. Alarm clock ring. When Han Dong opened his eyes, he found himself in a single bedroom. There were foreign movie posters from the 80s on the wall. There were a few 8th grade foreign language textbooks on a desk. There was a comic called Monster Mori on the bedside table. To match with the movie The Joker Returns, our age has been reduced accordingly. The Destiny realm is really strange. After turning off the alarm, Han Dong quickly got out of bed and went to the mirror. He returned to his 14-year-old youthful appearance. To be exact, he looked like Warren Nicholas when he was 14 years old. He was still thin and short. The first thing Han Dong did was to check his body. He checked if his ability was affected. Ghoul arm, play control. Furthermore, entering and leaving the prison was not affected. Han Dong was relieved. He was afraid that the reduction in age would affect the faceless head. If this ability, which was similar to a cheat, could not be used, Han Dong's survival rate would be greatly reduced. Furthermore, the Destiny equipment had been simplified. Han Dong found 2 key pendants on his waist. One was a dagger, the other was a pair of boots. The simplified equipment was 5 times smaller than the original. As long as Han Dong touched it and controlled it, he could switch between the original and the simplified version. It was a very convenient way to use it. Everything is normal. The situation is better than expected. At this moment, the familiar system voice echoed in his mind. Frowny face, identity description, name, Warren Nicholas, age, 14 years old, description, studied at Dry Town Basic High School, 8th grade class 2. Importing relevant memory information. A series of memories of his life in Dry Town from the time he was born to the age of 14 poured into Han Dong's brain. With such a huge amount of data, if it had been the brain of the mentally retarded boxer in prison, it would have exploded. However, for Han Dong's brain, there was no pressure at all. After the memory infusion was completed, Han Dong was completely immersed in the role of the movie. He did not feel the slightest bit out of place when interacting and talking with any of the residents of Dry Town. If I'm not wrong, Cass and the others should also be in the homes of their respective characters. According to the movie's plot, everyone should be attending the same school. Han Dong sent a message to Cass using a clockwork mechanism. This communication device, which was based on magic arrays, could still be used even in a different world. To a certain extent, it was even more useful than Han Dong's phone when he was alive. Soon, he received Cass's message and confirmed Han Dong's thoughts. The opening was the same, matching each student's identity, going to school normally, and not doing anything abnormal. After gathering at school, they would discuss where to start investigating, how to deal with danger, and so on. Han Dong's family belonged to the middle class of Dry Town. It had a well-decorated 2-story detached building, and his father's attire was also in line with his identity as a businessman. When Han Dong went downstairs, his brown-haired mother had already prepared a sumptuous breakfast of ham, fried eggs, and milk cornflakes. I'm going to school. With the support of the memory, Han Dong's behavior was very natural. However, the moment he said goodbye to his parents and closed the door, Han Dong's gaze shifted from his parents, who were chatting at the dining table, to the bottom of the table. There was a floating red balloon. Click! Han Dong, who closed the door, frowned. So soon, Han Dong, who had watched the movie The Return of the Clown, knew the meaning of the red balloon very well. He immediately focused and asked Miss Chun-Li to help pay attention to the surroundings. Since he saw the red balloon at the beginning, it meant that he had been targeted by the big boss of this incident, Pennywise. He got on a bicycle and quickly headed to the school 4 kilometers away. Riding on the tree-lined path in Dry Town, Han Dong felt the long-lost fresh air and suddenly recalled some of his experiences when he was alive. Riding to school, a long-lost sense of familiarity. When he thought of this, Han Dong shook his head hard. No, I can't be completely immersed. The compression of age and memory will make me completely immerse myself in the role if I'm not careful. I might even develop feelings for this town and not be able to make the right choice at the critical moment. During the 10-minute ride, Han Dong noticed a lot of abnormal scenes. There were a lot of missing person notices on the telephone poles and trash cans. There was a lonely old man sitting in the courtyard in a daze. There was a curfew notice on every door. When all these scenes were connected, this seemingly peaceful and quiet town became eerie. Dry Town Basic High School. The school's buildings were mainly made of red bricks. The top design was triangular and covered with blue rainproof tiles. This was the only middle school in Dry Town, so it covered a large area. In addition to the main teaching building, there were also 2 laboratory buildings, a library, a sports field, a cafeteria, and 5 student dormitories. It was even better than some third-rate universities. Nicholas's body still looked short among the middle school students. Relying on his memory, he found his own locker in the corridor. Following the class schedule posted in the locker, he took his textbook and went to the corresponding classroom area. Due to the implantation of his memory, Han Dong instantly integrated into the atmosphere of this high school in the town. Many people had gathered in the relatively spacious classroom. Cass and the other 2 had arrived early. It seemed that the age of the 3 had been compressed to about 14 years old, and they were also set as classmates. The 14-year-old Cass was still handsome, but his height had obviously decreased, and his skin was more delicate. If he changed into women's clothing and a wig, no one would doubt his gender. The small Costlin's change was the smallest. Under the situation where his height did not change, his entire person seemed to have maintained his original appearance. The one who changed the most was the only female on the team. The 14-year-old Sophia had turned into a young blonde loli. She had a round face that was as soft as water, and her delicate facial features matched with her golden curly hair. She was extremely adorable. Her body had developed in advance, and she was fully developed at this age. Compared to the other female students in the class, Sophia seemed to know her own characteristics, and she blushed when she met her teammates. Even some senior students would steal a few glances when they passed by. However, Han Dong did not react to this scene. So much so that for a moment, Han Dong wondered if he, or rather, it was related to his own body. If a sexy snot appeared in front of him, perhaps Han Dong would. Seeing Han Dong's arrival, Cass quickly went forward and asked, "Brother Lon, did you see the red balloon too?" Chapter 93. The 4 members of the team saw the red balloon at the beginning of the movie, but no other strange events happened after that. The appearance of the red balloon could only mean one thing. The clown had targeted the 4 of them the moment they entered the scene. In addition, Cass gave them a preliminary action plan, since the Destiny Realm has arranged for each of us to have a corresponding identity. In the early stages, we'll still pair up with the identity of a student in school and use our spare time to discuss and explore. After all, there might be important clues in the only middle school in Dry Town. After school, we'll start exploring and investigating the town, and we won't let go of any suspicious information. The bell rang, and the first class officially began. While maintaining a stable start, the 4 members of the team each had their own ideas. Cass's positive performance in class, his handsome appearance, and his rich knowledge immediately attracted the English teacher's extra attention. The reason why Cass did this was because in his memory, this English teacher had ulterior motives towards him. He could use this opportunity to establish a deeper relationship with this teacher and thus obtain some privileges in school as well as some confidential information that the students didn't know. As for Coslin, he was writing and drawing in his notebook, carrying out engineering blueprints. He planned to collect materials in the town and create some auxiliary combat props in the early stages of the incident. Sophia didn't seem to have anything to do. She directly fell asleep on her desk to replenish her energy in advance. As for Han Dong, he held a pen and paper and tried to recall the movie he had watched before, writing down the entire plot of The Clown Returns one. The morning's events passed quickly. The dining hall. The four people who had ordered a sumptuous meal had just sat together. Han Dong didn't speak much during the entire process, and he didn't tell everyone the movie's plot that he had recalled. First of all, it would be too abrupt, and it could possibly implicate Han Dong's background. Even if he used astrology to fool them, it would be difficult to fool smart people like Coslin and Cass. Second, Han Dong wasn't sure if the movie he had watched was exactly the same as the incident. The previous newbie incident, Bewitched, was in line with the original movie to a certain extent. However, the title of the movie that corresponded to this incident clearly pointed out the two words, and it corresponded to the follow-up, and this was the only movie that Han Dong had seen. Han Dong had no clue as to what the outer and inner chapters were. Therefore, in the early stages of the incident, Han Dong believed that they should focus on subjective investigation and not rely on the original movie. I will contact you if I discover anything. Cass deliberately tapped on a magical clockwork device on his wrist. In the afternoon, due to Cass's special relationship with the English teacher, he received a leave request. In this kind of thing, Fei would not be jealous. She just reminded Cass to be careful. General Office 3. Cass, remember to close the door after you come in. Looking for a gentle and slightly sweet female voice, Cass entered the office. It was class time, and coincidentally, other than the English teacher, Rodney Shirley, all the other teachers had gone to class. In other words, during the class, the two of them would not be disturbed by anyone. The English teacher, who was in her early 30s, had a good appearance and figure. Dressed in an office lady's formal attire, she deliberately put her long black stockings on the desk and beckoned Cass over with her finger. There was a look of eagerness in her eyes. "Hurry up and come over. I will give you a private tutoring. Time waits for no one. This kind of opportunity is rare." Cass showed a natural smile and walked over slowly. In the meantime, Cass's eyes scanned the current office and found a few strange details. The humidity in the office was significantly higher than outside. The interior was equipped with many faucets and sinks, far more than the number needed in an ordinary office. There were also many water stains left on the ground. Moreover, on every teacher's desk, there was a huge glass of water. The water was a little strange. Chapter 94. No matter how coquettishly the English teacher acted, Cass didn't care. Cass's heart didn't waver at all. The shyness of some teenagers and the blush on their faces were all faked. "Miss, I asked for leave because I want to ask you some questions about the school." Shirley wasn't in a hurry. One class was more than enough time for them to play. It was hard to get hold of such a handsome and cute boy. If he wanted to ask something, she would let him ask so that he wouldn't ruin her mood. "There's still plenty of time. Go ahead and ask. Make sure you perform well later. Go get me a glass of water first." "Okay." Cass picked up the large glass of water on the table, which had a total capacity of 1 liter. Cass filled half the glass according to how much a normal person would drink. Unexpectedly, Shirley's next action didn't seem like a delicate girl at all. She picked up the large glass of water and poured it into her mouth. Gulp, gulp. The half glass of water was 500 milliliters, but she drank it all in 2 seconds. What was even more frightening was that Shirley had a dissatisfied expression on her face. "This water isn't enough for me. Wait a minute, I'm suddenly thirsty." Shirley retracted her long black stockings. When she got up to drink the water, she deliberately licked Cass's face with her tongue. Although it was soft, Cass felt uncomfortable when her tongue brushed against his cheek. A soft barb grew on Shirley's tongue. Although it wasn't strong enough to scratch his cheek, it made Cass feel very uncomfortable. What happened next made Cass feel uneasy. Miss Shirley walked to the sink and made an unimaginable gesture. She didn't use a glass to get the water. Instead, she put her whole head under the faucet, opened the valve to the maximum, and drank directly. The water pressure was very high. As she drank, a lot of water splashed out. Shirley's clothes and black stockings were all wet. If you ignore the fact that she was a strange person, this wet blonde teacher was actually quite nice. Cass looked at the water stains around the other sinks, and then looked at Shirley's exaggerated way of drinking. He immediately imagined how the office drank on a daily basis. All the teachers would drink water directly from the sink. Habit? Hobby? No, this was abnormal enough. Shirley drank under the faucet for a full minute before she was completely satisfied. Shirley, who was soaked in sweat, couldn't wait to have sex with this handsome young man in the office. However, just as she withdrew her head from the sink and was about to throw herself into Cass's arms, zing, a silver light flashed before his eyes. Miss Shirley's line of sight first shifted diagonally, then fell vertically. Her gaze landed on her own high heels. She knew that she had been beheaded by this handsome and obedient male student. This was Cass's decision. He had a lot of experience dealing with non-human creatures, so he was more than 80% sure that Shirley wasn't a human, or rather, none of the teachers in the office were human. Due to the limitations of the Destiny space, Cass only had a light short sword in his hand. But Cass's strength was still enough to chop off the heads of ordinary people. Decapitation complete. However, Shirley's vitality didn't decrease at all. Even the head that had fallen to the ground still had its eyes open. It slowly turned its head to look at Cass and asked with a puzzled expression, "Didn't you promise me before that you would be with me? Why are you doing this to me?" While the head was asking questions, the headless body actually grabbed the fruit knife next to the sink and swung it at Cass. The neck of the headless body had turned into a round mouth full of sharp spikes, which gave off a dangerous feeling. The body could move on its own without the head. After killing Cass, he could reattach the head. As for Miss Shirley's head, it was crying because of sadness after the question. Then a string of finger tissue grew out from the neck and crawled away with the head. It seemed that the head was planning to leave the office to inform Cass. Cass was a 3-star crusader. First, he kicked the headless body away. Then, he pounced on Miss Shirley's strange head. The short sword in his hand accurately pierced through the skull. One hit, one kill. Since the head was dead, the body that had been kicked away immediately lost its vitality and fell to the ground. Due to the series of battles, the office was in a mess. Cass had to clean up Miss Shirley's body and restore the office to its original state before the other teachers came back from class. Looking at the huge cups on the desks and the water stains on the ground, Cass muttered, "Miss Shirley is not alone. Shirley is definitely not the only one. The teachers in the office, or even the entire school, might be the problem. Is this the clown's doing, or is this a separate side event?" Cass immediately sent a message to his teammates. "Come to the general office 3, quickly. There's something troublesome here that needs to be dealt with." 10 minutes later, the office was restored to its original state. Han Dong squatted in front of the strange body alone and observed the multi-tooth oral structure in the neck. Mandible and radula. This Miss Shirley should be an aquatic variant. Strangely, her human behavior is unaffected. She can even teach normally. If I want to understand more, I'll have to dissect her. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert in this area. When Han Dong muttered this sentence to himself, his teammates looked at each other, not knowing what he was talking about. "Ko Slin, do you have a sharper handsaw or knife?" "Yes." Ko Slin made a small handsaw for Han Dong on the spot. Since the brain died, the separated body also lost its vitality. Han Dong deduced that Miss Shirley's brain should be the main part of the mutation. What happened next was a little cruel. 137 characters skipped. How long has it been since she died? Why has the water in her entire brain been sucked dry? The exposed brain, was completely a mass of brainstem. However, Han Dong soon found the culprit near the brain's inner tissues, a bean-sized parasite that was also in a shriveled state due to lack of water and was as hard as a fossil. Just as Han Dong pulled out this little guy with a pair of tweezers, the familiar system's voice rang in the minds of the four frowny-face side event activated. Parasite School event requirement. Find the host parasite hiding in the school and eliminate it. Event reward. Medium-sized clue, Dry Town's water pollution. Increase the probability of obtaining the card of fate in the final reward and a small probability of obtaining the perfect parasite. Side event. Cass did not expect it at all. He had planned to use the special teacher-student relationship to understand this school in detail. Who would have thought that halfway through this wave of operations, they would catch an unexpected big fish? Chapter 95. It was already afternoon when the side mission was triggered, considering that the entire teaching staff of Dry Town High School might be problematic. In a high school without night self-study, it was not a good thing to act recklessly at night. In addition, a parasite specimen fell into Han Dong's hands. He could use the night to study it at home. Maybe he could find the entry point of the side mission. The team decided to wait until tomorrow to solve the Parasite School incident. After school, Cass, Coslin, and Sophia began to explore at night as a group. Han Dong separated from the three and went home alone with the parasite specimen. His mother had already fried the steak and made a big pot of broccoli and carrot stew. She was waiting for the father and son to go home for dinner. Han Dong just pretended to be immersed in the role of a son, according to his memory. He talked about his experience at school with his parents at the dining table. After dinner, he went back to the dorm alone and locked the door. This kind of mutated parasite does not exist in the normal biological world, nor in the original movie The Clown Returns. Sure enough, the movie used in the Destiny realm is different from the original movie I've seen. It was the right choice not to copy the original movie's plot. There's too little information now. Let's wait until we complete the parasitic side mission. Han Dong placed the bean-sized parasitic worm on the table and prepared for the experiment. Han Dong was wearing gloves during the whole process and did not touch the worm directly. At the same time, a woman in red with black hair was leaning on the side. Miss Chun-Li, if it shows signs of activity and tries to escape, kill it directly. Okay. Han Dong completely trusted Chun-Li's knife skills. She could definitely kill this thing instantly. The evil aura on the blade would instantly cut off the parasite's life force. Because there was no experimental equipment, Han Dong could only perform a series of simple experiments. First, he had to test whether this thing was dead or not. It did not have any reaction to all kinds of smashing, cutting, and even electric shocks. Phew. Han Dong took a deep breath and took a bottle of mineral water. He dripped a drop on the surface of the parasite. The water droplet was instantly absorbed under the skin. The parasite immediately became active. However, because there was too little water, the parasite only completed one stretch and returned to its original state. According to cast description, the host has a serious tendency to drink water. Sure enough, only water can activate it. He went downstairs and found a glass with a thicker wall and filled it with water. Plop! He threw the parasite into the glass and immediately closed the bottle cap. Then, something unbelievable happened. 300 milliliters of water was absorbed in a few seconds. After obtaining enough water, the parasite revealed its terrifying form. A large number of spikes protruded from the surface of its body. These spikes also belonged to its synapses and could be effectively connected to the human brain for control. The tongue and teeth in the mouth could quickly bite through the human skin and enter the blood circulation to be brought to the brain. How interesting if this creature were to be brought back to the world where it was alive for research. It would be able to write several top-notch papers. Maybe I can be promoted to a professor in advance. Han Dong wasn't afraid of the parasite at all. While observing, he was thinking about how to solve the side event. Intracranial parasitism directly controls the cerebellum. During the process of control, the brain and external appearance will not be changed, but the internal structure of the host will be completely changed. Since the outer appearance did not change, these parasitic creatures must be able to recognize their own kind through some method. Yes, recognize your own kind. Suddenly, a very dangerous idea flashed in Han Dong's mind. Once it succeeds, the side event in the school can be solved tomorrow without causing a big commotion. I have to work overtime tonight to do the experiment. I'll leave the exploration of the town to Cass and the others. Han Dong's idea was to find a critical condition. Let the parasite not completely connect to the brain and just stick to the brain. It was equivalent to creating a harmless parasite. It wouldn't affect the host, but it would be regarded as the same kind by other hosts. Then he could reverse sense the parasitic host hidden in the campus. Don't think too much. Han Dong wouldn't take the risk of becoming a host. His brain couldn't be fooled. Han Dong was going to find a system character in Dry Town to become a spy. Around 11 o'clock at night. Ding dong. The doorbell rang downstairs, followed by a more ordinary English conversation. It seemed that a friend of his parents came to visit. Han Dong, who was focused on the parasite experiment, couldn't afford to be distracted for a moment. He blocked all external interference. 10 minutes later, through salinity adjustment, pH adjustment, and other methods, Han Dong finally found a critical value that could make the parasite lose control of the brain without losing its activity. Soaked in such a liquid, the parasite would change into a temporary symbiotic organism. Just as all this was completed, Chun-Li's urgent voice came from behind. "Master, window." Han Dong immediately turned his head. He saw a red balloon slowly rising from the bottom of the window, just rising to the center of the window and stopping. Han Dong, who had seen the movie, knew very well that this was a balloon that belonged to the clown. He entered a state of alert and carefully approached the window. During this time, Han Dong's right arm constantly flashed with green light. The ghoul's fingernails had grown about 10 centimeters long. Chun-Li held the kitchen knife tightly and followed by the side, ready to chop up any terrifying monsters that might appear. Just as the two of them were close to the window, pop! The balloon exploded. The red balloon fragments were directly swept into the void, leaving no debris. Nothing terrifying appeared. However, Han Dong, who was concentrating his mind power, noticed something at once. On the boulevard outside the window, a clown holding a balloon was jumping into the distance. Its slightly swaying left hand seemed to be waving goodbye to Han Dong. Han Dong was shocked. Although he was focused on the experiment, he did not hear the movement on the first floor. There was this memory in his subconscious mind. He immediately recalled a shallow memory of 10 minutes before the experiment ended. It seemed that someone had visited his house in the middle of the night. For a moment, the two events were connected. Oh no, could it be that the visitor is here? Han Dong immediately put the glass jar containing the parasite into the closet and went downstairs to check the situation. As soon as he pushed open the bedroom door, a gust of cold air hit him in the face, making Han Dong feel uncomfortable all over. The lights in the living room flickered continuously due to the unstable voltage. His parents were sitting motionlessly on the sofa, staring at the old-fashioned television that was full of snowflakes. On the coffee table in front of his parents, there was a red and white gift box with a clown printed on it. It had been opened. Chapter 96. Incandescent lights that flickered irregularly. Old televisions that were full of static because there was no signal. Parents that sat motionless on the sofa. And a gift box that had the image of a strange clown printed on it. All these scenes were not in the original movie, The Clown Returns. More importantly, in the original movie, The Clown Returns, only teenagers and children could see the scary clown in Draytown. Adults could not see it. Now, in Han Dong's Destiny world, his parents were seriously affected. Therefore, Han Dong had completely abandoned the original plot and emptied his brain's recycle bin, treating it as an unknown event. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, Han Dong also quickly sent the information of his current encounter to Cass and the others through the clockwork device. But he did not receive a reply for a long time. It seemed that Cass and the others were also in a difficult situation. Dragging it out is not a solution. Let's solve it ourselves. Han Dong signaled Chun-Li to guard the staircase. Han Dong would go down first to investigate, and Chun-Li would be ready to support at any time. Just as Han Dong stepped down the last step, the familiar system sound echoed in his mind again. Side event activated. Frightening parents' requirements. Deal with family matters. Reward. A small clue. Frightening gift box. A small increase in the probability of obtaining the card of fate. This is also a side event? However, compared to the school side event, the scale of this event was obviously smaller, so it corresponded to a small clue. Moreover, this side event was directly related to Clown, Pennywise. Even the description of the requirements was very strange. This time in the Destiny world, is it mainly about side events? Just as Han Dong was thinking, his parents, who were sitting on the sofa and watching the television, turned their heads in a rather stiff way. Their bodies were still in a sitting position, only their heads on their necks were turning mechanically. They turned 90 degrees and looked straight at Han Dong. They were completely different from the kind parents in his mind. Both of them were wearing exaggerated bright red lipstick, and their smiles were extremely exaggerated, to the limit of the cheekbones' facial muscles. Their eyes were wide open, as if they would pop out of their sockets at any time. "Nicholas, why are you still awake?" The same voice came from his mother's mouth. "Come down and drink some water." Han Dong, faced with such a terrifying scene, he turned around and went to the kitchen to get some water. But just as Han Dong walked towards the kitchen with his back facing his parents, click, click. The first sound was the sound of the television. The second sound was the sound of the lights off. This meant that all the light sources in the house were extinguished and only a faint ray of moonlight shone in through the window. Kacha, kacha, the sound of fingernails scratching. It was as if something was crawling in the dark. When Han Dong turned around, he saw Yi Zichen. His parents were. Where are you? Han Dong, who was mentally prepared, remained indifferent. He completely suppressed the fear in his body and gestured to Chun-Li, who was hiding in the dark, to take action. Han Dong kept a smile on his face as he looked at his parents. At this moment, a red shadow flashed past. The kitchen knife, surrounded by evil energy, instantly cut through the necks of his parents. The arteries were severed, and oil gushed out. His parents' heads just happened to fall into the sink beside them. They still maintained their smiles and stared at Han Dong with their eyes wide open. The headless body fell heavily to the ground. The strange thing was, the corpses that fell to the ground were like balloons. Pop! There was an explosion. Pop! The balloon exploded. Han Dong's consciousness shook. In the blink of an eye, he was next to the brightly lit bedroom window on the second floor. The red balloon outside the window had just exploded. Han Dong saw the clown jumping away on the street again. Cold sweat flowed down his temples. Time reversed? That's impossible. Han Dong immediately turned to look at the clock in the room. 10 minutes had passed since Han Dong left the room. In addition, the parasite specimen had been kept in the bookcase. These two situations were enough to prove that time had not been reversed. Han Dong quietly left the bedroom. When he looked into the living room through the gap in the stairwell, he saw his parents sitting on the sofa, unharmed. It was exactly the same as before. This meant that it was not a time reversal, but a simple scene reset. Because of his parents' death, everything had to be restarted. How did they manage to reset the scene like that? Is it a mental influence? Just as Han Dong was deep in thought, the system notification sounded frowny face. Family matters must be handled by the family members. No outsiders are allowed to interfere. If you deliberately violate the rules to reset the scene, you will be severely punished. In other words, I have to do this myself? Even Chun-Li, who has established a master-servant relationship with me, is not allowed to interfere? So that's what family matters means. Since that was the case, Han Dong immediately recalled Chun-Li back to the prison. With his previous experience, Han Dong was sure that his parents, who were affected by the clown, were not particularly strong. At least, Chun-Li could be killed with a single slash if she used sneak attacks. Both of his destiny items were activated. The ghoul's arm was also half-activated. Its size did not change, but its fingernails extended to about 10 centimeters. Han Dong still had to hold back when dealing with normal mutated enemies. After all, the clown might be able to see all of this. Han Dong did not want to use all of his trump cards right from the start. Creak. When Han Dong pushed open the door again, he found that the situation at home had changed. Only the television was still on. His parents, who were originally sitting on the sofa, had disappeared. He activated the crow mark on the back of his hand. A bird's beak mask with night vision was formed. The darkness no longer affected Han Dong. Han Dong first searched the house, but found no trace of his parents. Since the search was fruitless, he could only return to the living room. He stared at the clown's open gift box on the table. There was still a note left inside. After confirming that there was no one around, Han Dong quickly pulled out the note and read the message on it. Family matters. Deal with the abnormal family members. Reminder, in the eyes of those who are abnormal, those who are normal are abnormal. At this moment, the glass door from the kitchen that led to the backyard opened. His parents, who had strange smiles on their faces, walked into the house from the backyard. The reason why Han Dong's search was fruitless was because his parents had gone to the backyard to get equipment. His mother was holding a long-barreled shotgun, which was already loaded. His father was holding a diesel-electric saw. Rumble. He pulled the cord of the engine. The chain of the saw was already spinning wildly under the power of the engine. Chapter 97. Note, the parents in this chapter are the product of the system data and have nothing to do with the protagonist. Please do not misinterpret. The father holding the chainsaw, the mother holding the hunting rifle, coupled with the scary red lips and scary smile. If it was an ordinary child, he would have cried and knelt on the ground, swearing to study hard every day and never secretly play games again. Han Dong stared at the scene in front of him and felt helpless. So they went outside to look for props. Really? Seeing the parents holding weapons, Han Dong immediately observed the surrounding environment, and his brain efficiently calculated the best way to fight. This kind of distance, limited space, coupled with a weapon in hand, it is really a bit troublesome. Most of Han Dong's attention stayed on the mother. The thing he was most worried about was the hunting rifle. If the bullet hit the body, it would be fine, but if it hit the head, it would be really troublesome. Phew! Han Dong took a deep breath. First impressions are the strongest. In Han Dong's eyes, the 14 years implanted memory and the real memory could be clearly distinguished. The parents in front of him were just NPCs in the Destiny world. They had nothing to do with him. He grabbed the coffee table and threw it at the parents who were standing in the kitchen area. If it hit, it was enough to injure or even knock out a normal adult. Who knew? The parents did not have any intention to dodge. Bang! The mother actually pulled the trigger of the hunting rifle at the same time when the coffee table flew at her. She did not care whether she would be hit or not. The bullet penetrated the glass coffee table and aimed at Han Dong's head. Bang! The sound of the bullet entering the flesh. Han Dong fell sideways on the ground. Blood slowly flowed on the ground. As for the coffee table that flew over, it was directly cut in the middle by the father with the chainsaw. It did not hurt the two people. Staring at the son who was hit on the ground, the first thing the husband and wife did was not to go forward to check, but to finish the shot. Bang! 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 3 consecutive shots were fired, accurately hitting the target. But it was not over yet. Bang! Bang! 5 consecutive shots were fired to deal with the family affair. The finishing shots were finished. Only then did the parents seem satisfied. They leaned towards Han Dong to check if he was dead. However, the way to check whether or not he was dead was not to feel his pulse or feel his breathing, but to use the chainsaw in his father's hand. Cutting off Han Dong's head would confirm his death. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sound of the diesel engine echoed in the room. The falling chainsaw was ready to cut off Han Dong's head with the sofa. Zzz. Just when the cotton wool of the sofa scattered in all directions, a green energy shot out. The target of the plague ray was not his father, who was holding the chainsaw, but his mother, who was waiting for the results of the test behind him. He accurately hit his mother's eyes, blinding her and making her unable to aim. It was only at such a close distance that Han Dong dared to guarantee the accuracy of the plague ray. After all, there was no aiming device on the dagger, and it would be difficult to aim from a distance. Just as the plague ray shot out, the plague ray shot out. Ghoul arm, 100% the claw tore through the sofa and pierced through his father's body. At the same time, it turned 90 degrees. Crack! Instant death. Hurry up. Han Dong, who had pulled out his claw, quickly rushed to his blind mother. He swung his claw down. He cut off her right arm that was holding the gun. Then, with a reverse claw, he easily cut open her body. Death! He stared at his parents' corpses. Han Dong had a helpless look on his face. Not following the routine. You still want to shoot me after I fall to the ground? Fortunately, the body is not completely mine, and a healthy community of probiotic fungi has formed inside. Playing dead. This was a move that he had learned from the shifting old woman. The room was limited and there were few bunkers. Han Dong stood at the door of the living room, and his parents stood at the back door of the kitchen. They were far away. With such a distance and not much cover, it was difficult to close the distance. It was also difficult to accurately hit his mother's eyes through the plague ray and make her lose her ability to aim. Moreover, even if Han Dong closed the distance, he still needed to subdue the chainsaw father first. During this period, his mother would have many opportunities to shoot. Once she was hit in the head, it would be troublesome. Therefore, when his mother ignored the coffee table flying towards her and decisively fired the first shot, Han Dong used his ghoul arm to protect his head and blocked the bullet. He took the opportunity to fall to the ground so that his head and part of his upper body just happened to fall behind the sofa. As mentioned before, Han Dong's family background was good. The sofa was a high-end product embedded with many layers of steel, solid wood, and thick cotton wool. Ordinary shotguns couldn't penetrate it. Even if he followed up with a follow-up shot, he could only shoot unimportant body parts. Moreover, Han Dong's upper body was still wearing silver soft armor. At most, the lower body would suffer. In addition, the lower body was shot 5 times, but it didn't affect Han Dong's movements. He even bled very little. The reason was the probiotic fungi community. It controlled the fungi distributed in the body to block the blood vessels and help stop bleeding. At the same time, it could also prevent tetanus infection. Even if the muscle tissue was injured, it could continue to perform the relevant functions through the mycelium temporary connection. Playing dead was a success. Han Dong solved the family matter. At this time, the TV switched back to the original scene. The lights were also turned on one after another. Everything in the house returned to normal, except that his parents were no longer there. A gift box belonging to Han Dong appeared in the middle of the living room floor. Side event: Frightening Parents has been completed. Received a small clue, frightening smile gift box. Han Dong was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief after hearing the notification. This small side event is not simple. It forces a person to fight. Even servants and pets are not allowed. It's lucky to be able to solve this matter without using the pollution ability. Chun-Li took the initiative to appear and help the injured Han Dong to the bathroom. Tweezers, a plate, gauze, and a towel. Ding! Ding! A continuous metal sound came out. The bullets shot into Han Dong's body were taken out one by one. 2 of them hit the silver soft armor and only scratched the skin. Han Dong really wanted to thank Pasha for this gift. The process of taking out the bullets didn't hurt at all. Han Dong took the initiative to separate his head from his body to block the pain. After that, he wrapped the gauze. With the help of the fungus in his body, there was no need to worry about subsequent infection. This kind of hunting rifle wasn't too powerful, and with a certain amount of luck, the bullets didn't shatter the bones. He only needed to wait until the meeting with the team and receive Sophia's holy light treatment to fully recover. By the way, why didn't Cass reply to my message? Han Dong sent a text message a long time ago. They are also in trouble. When Han Dong checked his body, he found that although there was no problem with the bones, Many muscles and tendons were damaged. The fungal silk could only be temporarily connected and couldn't be maintained for a long time. In this way, Han Dong could only slowly return to the dormitory to rest with Chun-Li's help. He couldn't find and help Cass and the others. The three of them should be fine. Han Dong, do you need me to deal with the body downstairs? Chun-Li asked. Just wash away the bloodstains. The body is still useful. Thought you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.